No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNRadio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN.
Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
Yeah. An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow.
It's been an actual nightmare.
To oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez. Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis. Now streaming on Freevee.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of GoodPods. If you haven't heard of it yet, GoodPods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On GoodPods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find GoodPods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome to Inquiry, a dialogue about a topic to be named by our interrogator, our guest interrogator, Aggie DeBarkey. I am your respondent, Stephen Hall, and welcome to the show. So what topic do you have for us today?
Hi, the least popular topic ever discussed on this show, I'm pretty sure. Seriously, I can't think of anything less popular than this. So considering that we are still in April, I thought that we would discuss the IRS, its inception and why it came about, and how it is that it became the bloated behemoth that we now succumb to every single April 15th.
Well, I mean, as you know, the IRS was basically created because to oversee the collection of brand new income tax. And by brand new, I mean the first income tax they started to pay for this, pesky little wars and projects that they have was struck down by the Supreme Court. Because, as you well know, the Constitution requires any tax from the federal government to be apportioned among the states.
Yes.
So before they can levy it, they have to decide which state has to provide how much money. And the idea of the original Constitution was you go back to all the 13 states, you go, we need this much money, given your economy, you're going to pay this much and you're going to pay this. And they all agree to it, and then they fund the federal government. Of course, they also got money primarily from tariffs and duties. So,
duty.
I knew better to do that with Rick here. Okay. But anyway, so the tariffs was the basic way you funded the federal government. And, federal government had very limited concepts under the Republic. So they had fairly limited expenses, although fairly substantial compared to the times. As we become more industrialized, we've had more discretionary budget within our personal income that the federal government seems to absorb. But the Supreme Court at the time said there's no constitutional provision. They said the federal government has taxing authority that is traditional for governments, even if it's not spelled out in the Constitution itself, which is kind of a strange interpretation by the Supreme Court, allowing greater leeway to the federal government to fund its activities. And your basic reason for that is they didn't want to go back to the days of the Articles of Confederation, where the federal government really became impotent because of squabbling between the states. And you can see how that would happen very quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
So after the Supreme Court struck it down, they decided, okay, well, we'll just pass an amendment. And this was under the major progressive push in the early 1900s, early 1900s, around 1910, well, they all got passed in 1913 under Woodrow Wilson. But this was the progressive movement where they coalesced around the 1880s going, we're a nation, not just a collection of individual states. And so there was a big push for a unified concept of the country. You know, the Manifest Destiny had come through, and once they had got the land, now they were going to consolidate their power and finances. And that's hard to do when your federal government is limited by that Constitution and the scope of it. So if you're wanting a strong central power and a strong central government, you have to find a more independent means of financing that level of government. Because if you're dependent upon the states, that kind of puts you in their pocket. So there were two things that they did to break away from these silly restraints of the Constitution that kept the federal government from being just a unified central power that could run over top of people.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. It just dawned on me. Are you talking about the 17th Amendment?
And the 16th.
And the 16th. Okay. Because when you said 1913, I was like, wait.
They went hand in hand. These were not isolated amendments. This was a coordinated design to centralize authority and power.
I see.
So the same thing that establishes a constitutional provision that allows for the federal government to tax people directly through an income tax, the 16th Amendment, and the same amendment that separates them from the control by the states of the Senate being directly elected by the people, so you only had to appeal to the popular vote and could ignore the state governments entirely. So you're making the federal government independent of the states, breaking the balance of power, and you're giving them an independent source of revenue other than just, a voluntary one, which is based on trade, kind of like a sales tax. But your tariffs that are coming in, you could tax international trade. Theoretically, you could tax interstate trade, but they didn't traditionally do that. So what you're left with is this push to have a central federal government that certain people called robber barons at the time, because that was the name that they gave them for, could exert control more broadly over the economy. And they wanted to control the money, so if you control the money, you can control most of the policies. Remember, this comes on the heels of some railroad scandals and the Teapot Dome scandal.
Yeah, I remember the Teapot Dome.
Most people aren't really familiar with those, but it was a way of politicians going, we can make some money at this deal as being politicians in the federal government. And of course, this horrifies everybody. Of course, now we see people doing insider trading through the government going, oh, well, that's just standard now.
We have become kind of inured to it. It's become expected. Nobody gets punished from it, so we just accept it and move on.
So instead of hanging them from the highest yardarm, or at least at the very least ending their political career, like they did with the Teapot Dome scandal. Now it's become commonplace. But the idea was the people who were pulling the levers behind the scenes could use this to make money. The Transcontinental Railroad,
Mhm.
if you know anything about that, they were manipulating I want to say the economic graphs to lie to the politicians to justify getting kickbacks from the government for building the railroad so they could make lots of money.
Wow.
Not through not through legitimate competition, but through uh, subsidies from the federal government. And I go back to something I've always said: all subsidies are evil. All economic subsidies are bad economic policy.
No lie detected. I do believe that simply because having lived in Hawaii, dealing with the sugar subsidy and everything, the issue there, having been born in Puerto Rico, where we do raise sugar cane as part of our economic crops there. Yeah, it's not a good thing
Well,
at
people
all.
forget how big the sugar trust was in those robber barons and how important that was.
Oh yeah, totally. I'm telling you, nobody knows about the sugar subsidies. Most people don't even know um, how damaging it really is. It's it's really weird. You go to Germany and over there, it's like, what do you mean, real sugar? What? We can't afford that. They use beet sugar. They don't use sugar cane sugar. They use beet sugar, which ick. But I mean,
Yeah.
well, the crystallized stuff is fine. But when you use it for your sodas, like Coca-Cola uses beet sugar instead of you know cane sugar or even the corn syrup or
Well, here
whatever
they
it is.
don't even use cane sugar; they use the corn syrup.
Yeah, well, now you can find it with cane sugar, but you gotta pay for it. So,
Mhm.
um, seriously, when I lived over there and I would go on base, I would buy. I gifted bags of sugar for like gifts, like for birthdays, and they were thrilled. And box cake. I mean, I never understood. I was like, okay, you guys have fabulous baked goods, but you still want cake from Duncan Hines? Okay,
Convenience.
fine, whatever.
Convenience is a wonderful thing.
Yeah, and it's a sugar content for them. So yeah, the whole sugar subsidy thing has yeah, but no subsidies ever, ever.
Yeah. So one of the same people building those trusts, like the Sugar Trust and things like that, J.P. Morgan,
Oh, there's
who
there's that name again.
there's that name, because he was one of the ones, along with John D. Rockefeller, who helped set up the Federal Reserve.
The Fed Reserve, yes, which was our
The Federal
topic last
Reserve
night.
came about the same time because that's why you needed the IRS to do the tax collection, the Federal Reserve to control the money supply, and the 17th Amendment to push the states out of their influence that could kill it, that could kill the consolidation of power and the centralization of power.
Wow.
And it isn't until a generation later when you get the exponential growth that you were really aiming at, because you had to get people used to this concept. And when they promised it, it was only going to be a tax on millionaires. And I think it was only like 3% if you made over $1 million, and it wasn't going to affect the common man with that income tax. And it was only temporary to pay off the war debt.
Uh-huh. Temporary. Okay.
Yeah, well, you got to pay off that war debt, right?
Yeah.
Civil War.
Right.
We haven't paid it off yet.
Nope.
Well, so you see what happened with that though is once they decided it was temporary, the Democrats kept coming back every 2 years and were like, "Hey guys, remember when we had that progressive income tax? Wasn't it wonderful? We were able to do all kinds of things. We should do that again." So for like several cycles, the Democrats were like, "No," and then they came up with the bright idea of, "Well, surely the American people won't let them get in their pocket, so we'll do it as a constitutional amendment." And then you started hearing all the things you've been hearing from Democrats ever since. Well, it's only going to really impact the rich people, and since you're not rich, it's not going to matter to you.
Divide and conquer. You can. What is the most oppressed minority in the United States?
Rich people?
Rich people. Rich people are always a minority. So if you have a
Yes.
popularly elected vote, you got a lot more poor people than you do rich people. So if you can stoke jealousy, you can divide the country and push almost any policy you want on we're targeting these people that you don't like. Which is funny because it comes from the robber barons who were pushing it, and they were pushing it on the dislike of themselves. You don't like us, so you're going to have to come after us. The way you're going to come after us is with this system we built to, tax us because we're wealthy. And
Yes.
it's only going to be against us, and it's never going to give us subsidies and kickbacks and things like that.
Well, isn't that part of the reason for the progressive tax?
Yeah.
So that, you keep a certain class at a certain income level happy because they don't have to pay.
But
Never
it's the
mind that.
same concept of regulation.
Yes.
Who does regulation hurt and who does it help? Regulation always helps the big business and it hurts the small businesses.
Yes.
Because if you know anything about business, there are barriers to entry, there are barriers to exit. And the more you make those barriers to entry, the more profitable you make it for people who are already in that industry because they have less competition.
Well, this is, we witnessed this with the shutdown during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
That was, if that did not teach people about this, they cannot be taught. Yeah, they just cannot be taught. I'm like, no, you just will not ever learn it. But it was amazing to me how it was incredible that certain things stayed open, but certain things had to be closed, even though it was on par, shopping wise, or
that mom and pop clothing store can't be open, but the Walmart can be.
Walmart can, Costco could, and
viruses don't go to Walmart.
Yeah, I remember that certain states would shut down churches to the point that you couldn't even park in the parking lot with the windows up to listen to
I remember
the
that
sermon.
one. They had the radio.
Yeah, and these were small churches, but the larger churches, because I know the mega church in Dallas, one of them starts with a C. Yeah, I always forget. I used to drive by it all the time. That one stayed open, and that was a mega church, and that was hundreds of people, not a little parish that has maybe 60. So it was very stark, and luckily for us here in Texas, we were shut down for a while, but there were services were still being held, and the only places where the services were being targeted were in the bluer cities. Most of the red states, we all went to church regardless. We just kept, okay, yeah, the state is shut down. That's fine. I don't mind the state being shut down. I just don't want my services being shut down. And I certainly don't want, the guy that sells me farm fresh eggs to be shut down. Especially if you're buying the eggs off of a road stand and you're not seeing anybody, it's based on the, faith method, and you just put the money in the little thing and then you take your dozen eggs.
Yeah.
Why would you shut that down? But look at what happened in California, where they were dumping sand into the skating board areas. And
they also arrested people who were alone on a beach.
Yes.
One guy who was out surfing.
Yeah.
It's like he's
Absolutely
surfing in the ocean by himself. Not another person around until you come up to him.
So yeah, regulation was very stark. It was very open, and it was very vivid during the COVID shutdown. And like I said, if you could not see it and if you could not understand what was going on, there was absolutely no hope for you. Your brain was fried. It was gone. I mean, what's the point of arguing with people like that when they just say it was for our better good? And I'm like, no, it's never for our greater good. There is no such thing as the greater good only belongs to the government.
Yeah, the greater good is evil.
Always.
But
I watched that movie.
The consolidation around this is the height of the mercantilist philosophy of economics, going from around the 1870s, 1880s, up through around the 1920s. And this philosophy, which was very strong, gave you your big unions, your big businesses, your uh, heavy industry and rubber barons, and this consolidation of power with the mercantile upper class is really what sparks the creation of the Fed. It creates the apparatus of the IRS, or the Internal Revenue Service. Why is it the Internal Revenue Service? Because what was the External Revenue Service?
What was the External Revenue Service?
Most people don't even know we had one of those, bro.
It's a customs office.
Oh, the customs office. Oh, that's right. The terminology actually came from the way Great Britain had it as well, because they call theirs inland revenue as opposed to outland revenue. So yeah, okay. That makes sense. Thank you.
The way the federal government traditionally paid for itself and paid for all of its services and paid for the military was through customs. And most people probably don't know this from their history, but what did John Hancock do that caused him to sign his name so big on that Declaration of Independence?
Wasn't he the first one? So he took up most of the space.
Yes, but what prompted him to do that?
I know he was pissed about something, but I don't remember what it was.
He was the nation's largest smuggler of sugar.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see why he would then.
He was not real happy with the custom duty of 6 cents a barrel on the sugar coming from the English colonies, where he could pay a 3 cents a barrel tax on the French sugar
Right.
from the Caribbean. So they would go down, they would load up the ship with French sugar, and then they would put the front of it as English, so they had the English stamp, and then they would bribe the customs officer so that they could smuggle that in and make money.
Ah, sneaky.
So customs and the tariffs were what was paying for most of the government at the federal level, not the state level, but at the federal level. So having an independent direct taxation where you bypass the states and could tax the individual directly, which is something you couldn't do before the income tax. The federal government could only collect taxes on imported goods, and if people wanted to protest your spending, they could just not buy imported goods, and suddenly the federal revenues would dry up. And the federal government would be forced to go to the states and ask for money apportioned among the states.
And that would go over very well.
But the income tax allowed them to bypass that and tax citizens directly.
So that's why, so it was basically a 3-prong attack on the Constitution, as opposed to one and then another and then another. It was like all at the same time, to break that.
People can't depend on multiple. It's hard for people to intellectually oppose intellectual war on multiple fronts.
No, it's very difficult to process, which is why we're constantly bombarded in a state of fear by any government that we're under, regardless. You witness it with ours, the way the UN is always constantly, oh, this is going to happen, we need to fix it, we need your money to fix it. The WHO, every organization always acts on that state of fear.
You still see the same process today, where they're trying to do this with cars, with the automatic shutdown. They're trying to do
the AI thing.
The kill switch. At the same time, they're trying to give immunity towards Monsanto and similar things for pesticides and Bayer pesticides in the Farm Bill. And you have this, you're trying to fight all of these issues on multiple fronts. And that's one of the reasons why Congress does so much that they don't really know what's in there because they haven't actually read them.
Well, it seems to me that most congressional members do not actually take time to read any of the legislation that crosses their desk. They leave that to their staffers to read. Then they do a little concise clip notes, and then that's what the congressperson gets.
Yeah.
It has
Well, they
been,
actually
you know,
couldn't. Do you know how many pieces of legislation they pass every year? Not considered how many they pass every year. Not considered how many they pass.
how many?
5,000.
Get out. No. See, this is where is, and we're getting off topic here, but this is also one of the reasons why we have so many, you know, departments and agencies that have absolutely no oversight whatsoever because the Congress is no longer wanting to do that job, so they just give it to another agency.
But it's
Like,
not entirely off topic because many of those things involve what are we those tax loopholes
hmm
are
yeah.
provisions in some of those 5,000 pieces of legislation. Now, many of those pieces of legislation are it's National, what was it, Shrimp Scampi Day, I think they said earlier.
Oh my word.
And, that's about 400 or 500 of your pieces of legislation are just we declare this such and such date to be National, Hot Dog Day.
Is it, in all honesty, when they declare something like that, is it just so that they have something that they have accomplished while being a congressperson?
Yeah,
Because,
it's also something lighthearted and entertaining that they don't have to really think about.
but what does it accomplish? All it does is pad
It
their
does absolutely
resume. It
nothing.
doesn't accomplish anything. Because if you're National Hot Dog Day, are you doing anything to for the hot dog vendors? Are you giving them a tax-free day? So they don't have to charge tax on everybody that comes and buys their hot. No, they're not. They just say, "Oh, it's National Hot Dog Day. Go have a hot dog." So yeah, spend the money so that we can get the taxes from that poor guy.
But it
That's
also
what it
says
seems
that
like to me.
your hot dog associations that are sending money to the campaign contributions, we're thinking about you.
Yeah, pretty much it. Yeah, God. This is,
We're taking your stuff into consideration. But that goes back, like I said, now that you have this independent source of revenue and you have a collection apparatus for the IRS, who dealt with most of the funds before the IRS, and they still do it today.
um, I don't know.
Right? Treasury Department.
Oh, sorry. Yeah,
That's what
obviously.
the Treasury Department is there is to maintain the currency. So why is the Treasury Department not collecting the taxes?
That is a very good question because you see it on the dollar bill. You see it on every bill, the US Treasury, blah, 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 but you don't send money there. However, you can send it to the Treasury directly. And, if you want to donate money to the government, you
Hmm.
give it to the Treasury Department, correct? You don't send
Yeah,
it to the IRS.
but they're no longer Treasury notes; they're Federal Reserve notes.
They're Federal
The
Reserve
IRS
notes.
is collecting the Federal Reserve notes.
Although, fun fact, I found a Treasury note once in a desk that I thrifted.
Uh huh.
That was fun.
But the whole purpose of the FBI was to, as Treasury agents, to make sure we had sound currency.
Okay.
That's the reason we have the FBI is to make sure that our Treasury notes and our coinage is not being counterfeited.
I have a friend of mine. He just retired from the FBI. He was in the money laundering division, and he said that I thought that was going to be a very boring
Was that
division.
was that a pro or anti money laundering division?
Uh, who can tell? But he was actually stationed in Brazil for 5 years, and he told me I thought it was going to be a cakewalk. He was very happy about being stationed over there and whatever. He said, I never in my life expected to be in such a position where I there were times that he thought he was going to die. It was that sketchy. And so
Mhm.
I never, when he told me he was going in, that was going to be he was going to be in the in the counterfeit division, money laundering and counterfeit division. I was like, they have that? And he just said, Aggie, they've always had that. You just
Yeah,
never
that was
noticed.
their purpose of creation.
Yeah, but he was right. I never noticed. Nobody notices. Nobody pays attention. They just think FBI, they're cops going, into a federal investigation, that kind of thing. But they don't think about that, the sections that each, and that's one of the biggest, if not the biggest section that they have is the counterfeit and money laundering.
MD is saying that the Secret Service is the counterfeiting, not the FBI.
Okay. Well, I'm not sure because I actually have a coin. My friend had coins that he would give for special occasions and stuff
Mhm.
like and it did say counterfeit and money laundering on it.
Yeah, I
So
know.
it
But
may have been
it's still part of
transferred,
the
but
Treasury.
hmm?
It's still part of the Treasury Department. It's what that
Yes.
sounds.
Yeah. So, I was just like, yeah, I'll take a picture and I'll send it to you when I find a coin. I don't know where I put it. I didn't think it was that important because I didn't earn it.
So let's go back and address your earlier point as to why it grew to the size it was. The reason it was created, obviously, is to create this independent lever of finance and power for the federal government where they could separate themselves from the states. And they were no
Mhm.
longer had to be responsible to answer to anybody but themselves or the public at large. What caused the growth?
Hmm. Um, I guess the addition, as they begin to add stuff to the tax. Um,
Well, people are only going to accept that if you have a crisis.
but yeah,
Never let
again,
a good
state of
crisis go
fear.
to waste.
Yeah, exactly. State of fear.
So, what crisis would cause people to give up lots of their income?
Mm, war is one. Um, the threat of
War came later. This is about a decade before that.
decade before war.
Hmm.
Hmm. Mm.
1929.
Oh, the crash. I'm sorry. I thought you meant World War One. I was like counting
World War
back. I'm
II.
like, what happened in 1904? I was like trying to figure that
Okay.
out. Okay.
Yeah, we skipped a war there. Or 10. We skipped 10 world wars there. Um,
Yeah, we skipped 10.
so World War 11. Uh,
She's never going to live that down. We're not going to let her either. But go ahead.
that's her potato moment. And for people who don't know what that is, that was Dan Quayle misspelling potato. Uh, so you have a Great Depression where you have an economic collapse, and it's not just here, but it's worldwide. But what was the effect of it was Democrats, in particular FDR, pushing a lot of social programs to help people out. And government help always is a scary thing. The federal government, the whole expenses of the federal government prior to the Great Depression was 6% of GDP.
6%.
Yeah, that paid for the Army, the Navy, all of those internal roads, all of those post offices, all the functions of the federal government were done for about 6% of GDP. Federal, state, and local taxes combined were somewhere between 8 to 10% of a person's income.
Wow.
But during the Depression and the war, the federal government became 36% of GDP.
I mean, that's a hell of a hike.
500% increase in federal taxes. They became
I was told there
600%
would
of
be
what
no
they were
math.
before that. But if you have a huge depression where people are out of work, they're not complaining about the taxes they're paying because otherwise they'd be making nothing. And you have a war going on, so people will do hardships because you have the continued existence of the United States threatened.
Yeah, at the time, the concept of patriotism was something that was never questioned. It wasn't questioned because of party. It wasn't questioned because of creed. It wasn't questioned because of religion for no reason. I mean, patriotism just was. So I can understand how that motivated people to um, to give to protect the country. I get that. I mean, we had the Victory Gardens, we had the rubber. I don't want to say raids, but the collection for
Right.
metal and rubber, and uh,
The steel coins in 1943.
yeah,
Steel
yep, I believe my
copper
dad
coins.
had a couple of those still.
I had a couple rolls of them. That's why they never became collector's items, because everybody always kept those going. These are going to be a unique thing because it's only one
No,
year.
no, my dad kept them because he was not allowed to spend them. My, my
Oh.
grandmother was like, "Oh no, that's not real. Don't spend that." He's like, "It's literally coins," and she was like, "No, it's not real." So,
Well, see, a lot of people kept them going. These are going to be collector's items, and the ones that are collector's items are the copper ones they made that same year, because they got a few copper before they changed to the steel penny. So if you
yeah,
can find a 1943 copper penny, you've got something.
it's funny what becomes a collectible, but no, yeah. I remember all of the drives. I remember the civil defense. How important the civil defense was
Mhm.
during the war effort, because there were people that could not serve overseas. They could not serve in the armed forces, so they chose to serve stateside, and that was
Yeah,
one way for them to serve. The women that served in the USO, giving the time, giving money for those causes. I completely understand
yeah, that
how
was
it was
really
that they
important
were.
in England.
Hmm.
In England, the civil defense was far more prominent. I know it was in America, but big time in England when they were during the war effort, because they started taking all the farms, going, we need to, because we can't import food because of those whole U-boat things, and we're going to basically not quite nationalize the farm industry, but heavily regulate it.
Yes, and still do.
And that's one of the things that destroyed England was after the war. After the war, they got rid of Churchill and said, we're keeping all of these government controls on all of your private property that we implemented in the emergency, and became very socialistic in terms of their farms and government control regulation of what you could do and what you couldn't do. And all those rules that they set up in the middle of the war, they continued.
Yeah, instead of them being temporary, they became permanent, which is
Yeah.
why we always joke there's no such thing as a temporary rule. And you see that now with the all of the Democrats fighting to keep the immigrants here under the temporary rules. And I'm like, what part of temporary don't you understand? And there's a lot of liberals that are pushing back saying, no, that's not really how the rule works. And I'm like, literally in the name, temporary,
Mhm.
but they don't think it's temporary. So
But it was also, remember, just like in 1913 when they had multiple fronts attacking to their common objective? World War II, they also had multiple fronts attacking the same concept, because you can't just go, we're going to tax you at 36%. No, we have to have a Social Security plan that we're helping out the elderly. Well, who doesn't want to help out the elderly? Well, I don't, but that's not the point. The idea was, we're going to make them more secure. We're going to not push grandma over the cliff. We're going to give them a little bit of comfort in their golden years of retirement. And I think the retirement age at the time was 62, and the life expectancy was 64 on average.
yes, yeah, and
They were only going to be on it for 2 years. There were 16 people working for every one person who was going to be retired.
mhm.
So they set it up as a Ponzi scheme, a pay as you go. We're paying in now, we'll pay out the benefits now, and we'll pay you from your children's when they're working.
Yeah, this is why my kids don't want to work, because they know it's coming to me. I honestly wish we had restructured the Social Security to be more private, so that we would have
Mhm.
better control over our money. But that couldn't have that because they needed the slush fund. So
Well, I mean, control over the resources is everything. That's why the
Mhm.
taxes grew so much. It gave them control. It gave them control not just of the money, but control over the collection apparatus. Think about what you needed a license to do back 100 years ago. You didn't need a business license to go into business. You didn't
No,
need a fishing license to go fishing, or a hunting license to go hunting.
The only thing you should have no, you need a license to hunt, to fish, to have a dog, to have a cat, to have exotic pets. You must have licenses not just to drive, but different licenses for different types of driving, for the boat, for your motorcycle, for you're right. It is a constant regulation
But
of,
you also now have all of these licensing boards for different professions and jobs.
yeah,
You try to practice law without a license. Try to practice medicine without a license.
you have to go to Grenada for that.
But all of that is taxation and control and apparatus and jobs for all of your friends who help you get elected.
That tracks.
And that's what you got to do with the money is you're taking the money and you're recycling it to make the government larger and larger. So the growth of the government occurred once you had a crisis to set up. You created the separation so that the federal government was independent, and then when you created the income tax and the IRS, and it wasn't about 16 years later you had a crisis which would cause the growth of that government. Less than 20 years they started implementing a plan to centralize not just the power of the government but the finances. I mean, think about a government that requires 40 to 50% of every citizen's work, and you're supposed to be free and have liberty. I think ordinance says, a government small enough to drown in a bathtub.
Smaller. Smaller. A glass of water.
But once,
One of the things that bothers me about the government, and I know it has nothing to do with the IRS, but the fact that government employees have a union bothers me no end.
Mhm.
And it's it's not just here in mainland or the States. It also applies in the territories as well, because I have my home country is in the red, has been in the red for decades, and they keep thinking that the US is going to dig them out of that, but by law they cannot do so.
Mhm.
So my relatives are always complaining about the fact that the US will never help them out. You know, it's like they don't care about us and all that stuff, blah blah blah. And I'm like, you know what? I don't know what to tell you. I can only tell you the law so many times. It just doesn't. But then all of these people, their pension is the same amount as if they were still working full time. It's not a smaller percentage. Their pension is not a small percentage of what their employment is. It's their employment. It keeps going after they retire. So, I had an uncle that worked for the power company, and the other one, no, his wife, my aunt, worked for the water company. And when they retired, their combined pensions were over $500,000 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that is insane. It blew my mind, and I'm like, no wonder this place is as broke as it is.
Well, did you hear about those people they were on Twitter X complaining about you don't have sympathy for this woman who's almost 60 years old and she was making $267,000 a year as head of this USAID as a manager in USAID, and now she's only able to get a job in management making $19. I mean, she got demoted to management.
How many? Which again tells me that part of the IRS, you don't need as many people working for it. You
Mhm.
really do not. You can pare that down. Obviously, I think that the bloat in the IRS it's on purpose.
But it's not just IRS, it's
On
an
several
agency. Think
levels.
about USAID. USAID is just an agency.
Yes.
And this woman was making $250,000 as a manager in there.
Yeah. I
With the
believe
skills that
one
in
of
the
my
private sector,
cousins
she can make about 40,000.
one of my cousins was working part-time at USAID in Puerto Rico, and she was part-time. Part-time. Okay. And her salary was 82. And she was part-time. And I'm like, how in the world? Of course, she that office shut down. Um, but she was able to find other work, and she's not making as much as she was. She is single. There's just one of her. I mean, she doesn't have to worry much about anything. But she was complaining, and I said, "You have a job. You be grateful you have a job, because there are people over here complaining that they can't find anything but barista stuff." And she was like, "Yeah, you're right." But to be fair, she was actually doing project management, where she was coordinating people to go places to do certain things, and she would review, make sure that whatever it was, digging the well or whatever it was, got done. It was operational. If it wasn't operational, those people were not going to get paid until it was, that kind of thing. So I can kind of see where she was doing, but her job was part-time and she was making that much. And I'm like, part-time working. Holy crap. I only wish.
When you look at some of these agencies, and particularly on the state level, but not getting to the federal level, but the state level, you have, I think it was the highest paid person in West Virginia was making about 3 times as much as the governor
Hmm.
in one of these healthcare facilities for, I think I don't remember if it was disabled or something like that, but one of these healthcare facilities, managing that, making over 400,000 in West Virginia.
That's
One of the
amazing.
poorest areas in the country, and they're making almost $500,000 as a government employee.
Well, this is, that I,
Once
I
upon a
can't.
time, the trade-off for being a government employee was you got job security, but less pay. And over the
That was
last,
supposed to be the balance. Yes.
yeah, and now it's got to the point where they make more and have the job security. So
This
it's
is why, a lot of people complain about the um, the legislature here in Texas, because, oh, they need a raise. They need a raise. And absolutely no, they do not need a raise. As a matter of fact, the legislature cannot give itself a raise. That is conditioned on a vote by the people, and it has to be called by the governor, and it cannot be done every year. So, and the reason they don't get that many raises is that this this is a side hustle. It's not supposed to be your permanent thing. It's a side hustle. You have a permanent job somewhere else. You just happen on your time off to do state legislature stuff. So that's how it was designed on the Texas Constitution. 273 amendments later, it has not been changed, but
yeah, some of the some
that's
of
the
the
way it
state
was supposed to
constitution
be.
provisions get really weird.
Yeah, it was
Uh,
supposed to be that you had job security, but you were not making bank. And now you're making bank, you're breaking bank, you're actually doing insider trading with the bank and have job security.
yeah. Well, that works until you have more government employees than you do private sector employees in a
Mhm.
majoritarian system. Remember, I talked about you have a village of 100 people, and if you can reduce things down to that, things become a lot easier to understand.
Yeah.
Okay,
Uh-huh.
so imagine you have a state with only 100 people in it, and 51 of those work for the state government.
What?
Uh-huh. In one capacity or another, they're working for the state, but that becomes a majority of your population in a democratic society. Now, what happens to that means that 14, because public employees don't pay public taxes or tax to that government. And if we
Mhm.
just have one level, one state, the city, whatever it is, and more than half the people work for that, where is their money that they get paid coming from? It's coming from the other 49 people. But it's a majoritarian system, so you've created people who can raise the taxes, being in the majority, but not paying the taxes.
So
So you basically enslaved the minority of the people by having too large a government.
right. And it seems like this is pretty much how we have developed our government, our
Mhm.
federal
And if
government.
you consider that a person receiving benefits from that government is being paid by the government and therefore a government employee, What are they going to do? They're going to vote for more government.
Sorry, I'm laughing at MD. Yes, by all means, please open that up soon. It is a desperately needed emporium.
Well, I don't know if he gets down around your area, he has to add, was it machetes?
Yeah, well, I bring my own. I mean,
Okay. Well, the torches and pitchforks is a European thing. The South American thing is always machetes.
machetes, yeah. But yeah, so that is one of the things that has, well, it bothers the IRS bothers everybody. It bothers
Hmm.
everybody. There have been several tries to get a flat tax going or a fair tax going, and I can't think of a country where they have one.
The problem is once you get the uh, uh, government dependent people outnumbering the people who are productive,
Yeah, you can't
it,
change it.
become, it becomes a tipping point where you cannot reduce that. So how are you going to reduce the amount of government? Because first you'd have to reduce their scope, and they're doing things which are traditionally state areas. But the
Hmm.
federal government's doing it. That's why they have all this tax money. You think about that they're getting this, most of the state taxes are running about 10%. The states are collecting more in taxes than the federal, state, and local combined used to get as a part of GDP. I think West Virginia is 10.4. When you add the property tax, the income tax, the uh, sales tax, and Virginia is just leapfrogging up to one of the highest ones. West Virginia
Yeah.
was kind of in the middle. They're looking at like 12 point some percent on the income tax side alone.
Wow.
And
That's
you add that
insane.
to the federal, which is still over 36% that they started back in World War II or before World War
See,
II.
this is what I don't understand. How it is that there can be blue states with both state and federal income tax. I don't get it because
Because
it
if
used
you're
to
getting
be,
your money from them, you support them.
well, and I this is something that I did ask my oldest because she does live in Virginia, and I did not ask her who she voted for or anything like that, but I did ask her um, what issues were what issues drove you to vote the way you did. And she did bring up the fact about the taxes. She brought up the fact to this, and she did that, and the other. And I said, "Does it bother you to pay state taxes as well as income tax?" And she said, "Well, no, because like Texas, all of the taxes are higher. Like you have 8.25% tax on goods. Most cities or whatever. Blah 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 blah." And I looked at her and I said, "What's the city tax here?" And she's like, "I've never even looked." Yeah, it's 8%. So I'm like, so basically, they still tax you there and add to the state tax, and then you have your federal tax, and it's like I saw the light bulb go on. It was too late; she had already voted, but I saw the light bulb go on. And they're, hopefully they'll be moving back to Texas sometime soon.
But
But
that's why you have so many taxes, because if you have a 5% here and a 5% there and a 5% there, you don't notice that it's adding up.
you don't, and especially when they keep it to that, kind of low thing. And admittedly, in Texas, it's on a municipal thing. Some places are 8.25, some places are 8.125, some places are 8.025. So but most of the average is 825, I think. But the thing is, a lot of people, like, when they come here, they're like, "Why 8% tax on this? Oh my gosh, why?" And I was like, and they tell you, I'm only paying 7% where I live, and I'm like, you know, you have state income tax, right? And my friend will tell me, yeah, we do. And it's like, have you ever noticed that even that 1% is still not commensurate with what you're paying in state income tax? And she will tell me, no, they never noticed because they don't look. They really don't look. If people were to pay attention to the amount of taxes that they do pay whenever they have to shell out their own money, they would riot.
Yeah, and
But like you said,
do it
you know,
slow bleed over time.
yeah, but like you said, because so many don't pay into the income tax, they don't look, and they're
Mhm.
like, well, um, and honestly, I do think that it's done on purpose to keep them there, because I know I have family members that don't want to move up to another, tier, so that they would have to pay taxes, and I'm like, but if you make more money, yeah, you do pay more taxes, but you still have more money in your pocket at the end. It'll even out. It'll be more, and they'll be like, yeah, no, I can't do that. So they'd rather be $22,000 a year rather than do $29,000 a year, have to pay a certain percentage of that, and then keep another 3 grand a year extra in their pocket. And I'm like,
Mhm. You just have to
ugh,
keep a barrier to entry that keeps them from going over that, because they would have to get to $40,000 before they're better off than they are at 22,
right.
because
And
benefits, the penalties,
and
and
and that's it. Again, it goes back to the government really doesn't want a middle class. They despise the middle class, because the middle class is actually a stepping stone, and it's one that actually shows that, yeah, you can rise, and yes, the taxes may go up for you, but they can measure it with what you're making. It's better. Your life is better. And they can't have that, I don't
yeah.
think.
I would like to think this was new, but they did this in the Middle Ages too, where you set the peasants against the burghers, the ones living in the city,
Yes.
and then you played it back and forth so that the people in power, the nobles, could keep their position
Oh
and
gosh,
keep
yeah.
the
And
tax flow coming in.
MD's list of taxes. I don't even get me started on the property tax thing, because I will get stabby. I will get stabby with I will stab my laptop right now.
Well, you know what they used to call the property tax, right?
Hmm.
That was the few in feudalism.
Oh, yes.
Nice. Well, there's a reason I gave you a nickname, Aggie, because I see you didn't give yourself one tonight. So I put under your name the Chunklinator.
The Champlinator.
There's a reason.
I didn't even see that.
So I
Oh
know
no.
we didn't get into the IRS as much as you would have liked, but we did get into why it grew and how it grew.
Yes, and it's and the solution to actually cutting all this stuff back, it will not be attainable, I
Yeah, the
don't think,
solution, the solution will not happen because of Iowa.
because of Iowa.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay, what president? How do you become president? You have to get the nomination for whatever party you is, or you
Yes.
have, or
Yeah.
whatever party you're in. You is. That was terrible grammar. Uh,
He sounded a little more southern than me, but okay.
so, how are you going to get the nomination if you don't win the caucus in Iowa? And how are you going to win the caucus in Iowa if you oppose subsidies, particularly farm subsidies?
Especially the farm subsidies. Yes, correct.
So you can never get president if you are against subsidies, because you can never pass the uh, nomination process.
Well, see, this is what I don't understand. You can tell them anything they want to hear, and then it'd be a lie. And I mean, they all lie, right?
Yeah, but you lie in the way the people giving you the money want you to lie.
Yeah, true. Okay.
So I think
Uh,
we're hitting the top of the hour. So Rick's going to kick us off here if we don't go ahead and say where we are.
Alrighty.
Rick's
Check.
like that.
Okay, so you can find me
I
at
know, I'm a
Aggie the
slave driver.
Barkeep. You can find me 8:30 p.m. Eastern doing the Cocktail Lounge on Tuesdays, 8:30 p.m. Eastern doing He Said, She Said with Rick on Fridays, the second Wednesday of every month at 8 p.m. The guys get together for Toxic Masculinity, and I bring the drink of the evening. And Jeff and I do Spirited Books on the first Monday of every month at 8:30 p.m. Eastern. And you?
I am on Twitter, X at Stephen L. Hall, and I'm here on Inquiry on KLRN every other Wednesday from 7 to 8. And right now we're still trying to line up a guest interrogator for the month of May, until Elf gets back, and he's supposed to be back in
Uh,
June, maybe.
maybe. I think MD would be a really good. I would
And
definitely
really
tune in for that. So yeah, MD, hook up with Steven about this because I need the tea. Now that I know that you know about the Secret
You just want
Service
the
and the
claim.
whole counterfeit thing, I need to know more. I need the tea. Alrighty. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much for being here. You've been a wonderful interrogator. And I'd like to thank all of our people in the audience for showing up and listening and commenting in chat.
Wonderful and interrogator should never go together. We're going to have to fix that. Just saying.
Um, eh.
All right, I think we're out.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNRadio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at K.
This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
It's time now for the Conservative Curmudgeon Radio Show. Now, here's Grouchy.
Good evening and welcome in. It is Wednesday night on KLRN Radio, and that means it is Chat Lives Matter night. I hope you're holdover from Inquiry with Stephen L. Hall and Aggie. If not, you should be. But I'm not here to judge you. It's not my job. Just glad you're here with me. Couple of things before we get rolling good and it starts happening. Literally, I have dropped internet 3 times in the last few minutes while I was waiting in the wings to go live. So this could be a regular thing. The storms are currently blowing through the area here. So I am at Mother Nature's mercy. Well, that and the mercy of a shitty ISP. But anyway.
Mother Nature is a horse. She's a big fat horse. She's the biggest horse in the whole wide world. Oh, wait.
Yes. Absolutely she is. God, it drives me crazy. Sometimes it'll just be like 3, 4, 10 seconds and it pops right back on. And then sometimes you just kind of have to sit there and wait and wait. It might be 2 minutes, it might be 10 minutes. You just don't know what you're going to get. You just don't know. I solved the power problem. I put the whole house generator on the house a few years ago, and that is not the issue. Now the problem is the stupid internet service provider. But there is hope. There is hope. There was there's a provider in this area. I don't know if they're in other areas as well, but they're called C-Spire. I don't know if anybody's heard of them or not, but C-Spire is in this. Well, I say they started on the other end of the county I live in, which is a rather large county, by the way. Largest habitable land space east of the Mississippi as a county. And yeah, I know there are bigger counties in other places, but not all their land is habitable. So, yeah, thanks for the lesson. I know already. Appreciate it. But they have been seen on the security cameras outside, rolling through the neighborhood like they're checking things out, maybe getting ready to come in here and possibly drop some fiber. I would foam at the mouth to have some competition, so I could drop my current ISP and sign up with them. My friend that lives on the other end of the county, some 45 miles away, he absolutely loves their service. He gets full duplex gigabit internet, so that's gig up, gig down, and he pays $80 a month with no contract, and says that he has yet to have a problem. I wouldn't know how to act. I really wouldn't. I wouldn't have any excuses then, Rick.
Oh no, you'd still have excuses because you didn't retire and help me take over the world yet. So it'll be like, I'm sorry, they're making me work for it.
Yeah, I mean there is that. I mean, hey, I'm here though. I'm here.
I know, but if I don't bust your balls, you'll think something's wrong. So
you're absolutely right. And I was actually thinking you were being a little quiet, but maybe you're eating or something. I don't know.
No, I was promoting, but I'm done now.
You're promoting. Who are you promoting?
I was putting out the post about your show going live so people knew.
Yes, because I told them to watch your feed for it. Yes. So that works out really well. So I can bounce over to your feed real quick. And well, so much for real quick. Come on.
I mean, you were just roasting your internet provider. Did you really think it was going to be quick?
Dude, I mean, I hope there's no latency in my voice coming across, but at this point, I wouldn't even doubt if there was. So
I haven't noticed any yet, but I don't know.
Well, that's good because my screen is sitting here spinning and spinning, trying to bring X up. And all I want to do is just tweet it out. God, bless America. Are you kidding?
Oh, and I think you may have just overtaxed your hamsters because now you're starting to fade in and out.
I knew it had to be going out. It'd be.
You're back now, though.
Oh, well, that's something. I mean, special. Come on, go to Rick's page. I'm gonna get this rebroadcast out, and then I'll be resuming back into the script. But before we do all that, the first story up tonight, there's a report out of West Virginia, not Virginia. They got their own stuff going on, but story out of West Virginia about massive registered voters changing affiliations. Some pretty big numbers in a pretty small state. And here we go again. It's lagging on me. I'm gonna, if I haven't dropped, I probably am about to.
You haven't yet. Let's time
No,
it.
well,
And there you go. So there's about a 10-second delay from when you notice it to when we see it. So, yay! And you're
yeah.
back again.
And I'm back again. How about that? Wouldn't know it by looking at my screen, but you know.
I'm just gonna load up the Jeopardy theme for when you keep vanishing like this.
I mean, you know, that would be the fun thing to do, and see how many times you have to run through it. And this is brutal. I'm not going to get to retweet you. I'm sorry. I'm just going to have to go with what I got here. But okay, so yeah.
Here's an idea. Use your phone.
I mean, I have my phone sitting here. I don't know what I need to have on it. I know we used to do some phone stuff like that, but I don't know what I need to have on it now.
Do you not have X on your phone?
Oh, well, no, because I go through. I use the browser interface in. What the hell do I use? Hang on, I'll tell you.
Never mind then.
Yeah, Brave. I use Brave browser interface. But now that you say that, that's how I can retweet you. So didn't think about grabbing my phone. Anyway, a wave of party switching in West Virginia is beginning to reshape the state's political landscape. Literally tens of thousands of voters. More than 16,000 Democrats have re-registered as Republicans. That's according to new data released by their Secretary of State, Chris Warner, reported that a total of 68,235 voters have changed party affiliation in the last year, just over a year, like 14 months. The biggest changes were 16,910 Democrats switching to Republicans, while another 20,000 unaffiliated voters also moved to Republican. At the same time, 12,299 Democrats left their party to become quote unquote unaffiliated, and 7,559 Republicans also dropped their party to go unaffiliated. So, smaller shifts include 2,399 unaffiliated to Democrat. And what is that? Yes, 2,111 switching from Republican to Democrat. Now that's the one I don't get. I don't follow that at all. Ooh, I don't know if you can hear the thunder, but I can.
Oh yeah, right as you came back, I'm feeling like we're in the beginning of the Garth Brooks song.
Okay. I didn't realize I dropped again.
Not really dropped that time, but garbled, and then when you came back strong, all of a sudden I heard.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Thunder roll.
I mean, you can bring up your weather app on your phone and look at the Gulf Coast right now, and we are in it. We are in it, here on the northern Gulf Coast. So, yeah. So, right now, as of April 23rd, the data that Secretary of State Warner shared shows 519,756 registered Republicans, 327,089 registered Democrats, independent. The latter two make up about 620,000 people, outnumbering registered Republicans. But it would be foolish to think that all independent / unaffiliated votes will go one way. I mean, that just not going to happen. Just not going to happen. So, yeah, I mean, even if Republicans got a third of the independents, they would still have a comfortable margin against the rest of the voting bloc. So changes come as West Virginia prepares for its upcoming primaries. With more than 1.19 million registered voters currently eligible to participate. Officials said that number will be finalized ahead of the April 28th deadline, which has passed now. So we will get some current data on that in the very near future, I'm sure. Early in-person voting began today and runs through May 9th. Recent shifts in party affiliation have drawn attention as West Virginia continues to evolve politically, with voter registration trends reflecting changing allegiances across the state. But it's important to note, Warner said, that it's not just West Virginia. There are lots of states where Democrats are switching to Republicans in much larger numbers than the other way around. I'm sure he talks to his counterparts out there, so I have not seen other states reporting that, other than Pennsylvania. I know had a pretty good flex for the Republicans, and we're going to see, what happens. I think Scott Pressler had a lot to do with Pennsylvania before the last presidential election, getting out there and doing the door knocking and registering and all that good stuff. Good dude. Delegate Josh Holstein, a member of the West Virginia House of Delegates. Yes, you would call a delegate a member of the House of Delegates. He said that the increase in West Virginians joining the Republican Party is likely due to the upcoming primary being a closed election, meaning only will be able to vote in the competitive Republican. Conversely, only vote primary. This huge uptick in the last couple of months is certainly tied to the primary being closed, he said. So I think that's why a lot of those folks said, hey, I'll register Republican. I don't know what that means, but, whatever. Delegate Mike Pushkin. That's a kind of an unfortunate name. Pushkin. Chairman of the state Democratic Party said in a statement obtained by the outlet that the data shows a broad change across the state, but not just a one-way shift in any particular direction. Yeah, that's good deflection. Good spin. Thousands of West Virginians are stepping away from party labels entirely, which reflects a broader frustration with politics as they exist. While Republicans have gained some voters, they are also losing thousands to no party, and many voters who re-engage are continuing to choose Democrats, he says. He added that none of this is particularly surprising, noting that the date includes 2024, when President Donald Trump was running for election and won every county in the state. In related news, after these not so surprisingly very razor thin margin that Virginia passed their unconstitutional legislation for redistricting, call it what you will. It's disenfranchising voters is what it is. But West Virginia has entered a campaign to try to lure people across the border, telling people in Virginia, come live in the best Virginia. That's got to sting a little bit. But Yeah, I mean, they might want to be careful. They may end up drawing some Democrats over. So, uh, for what it's worth. Anyway, somewhat related, and Rick, I know you spoke during the day today, right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, I thought I saw you mention you were on the air. Um, I hate I don't get to listen, but such is life.
Well, if you'd have retired, like you said.
Yes, I would be able to listen then. That's true. That is true. Instead, I get to listen to a whole different.
One of these days, I'm going to get a text from this guy after the show. If you don't stop giving me so much shit about not retiring yet.
Nah, you know what? It's cool. I am. I'm actually starting to plan my quote unquote semi-retired gig. I think I think I talked about this a few weeks back. Actually, I'm gonna build sheds.
Yeah, you actually you did talk about it already because that's when I started looking into prices.
Yeah,
I was like, huh.
It's ridiculous. And these places are all along the highways up and down this county, and like there's so many of them, and I'm like, how do they all stay in business? Well, it's because they're financially raping people when they bring one of these plop and drop sheds to their property. So I think I've about settled on Cat 6 carpentry and sheds. I have a system that I will build that will withstand 200-mile-per-hour winds without the shed going anywhere. And hey, I'll stand by it. If we had 200-mile-an-hour winds here, we're in big trouble. So big trouble. Anyway, related news to the previous story. The National Republican created a second district. Today's decision is a victory for the Constitution and the principle that every American citizen is equal under the law, NRCC Chairman Representative Richard Hudson wrote in a statement. The Supreme Court made clear that our elections should be decided by voters, not engineered through unconstitutional mandates. Earlier Wednesday, the High Court, in a 6-3 decision along ideological lines, according to Democrats, weakened the central provision of Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. I understand why the Voting Rights Act was created to begin with. But honestly, in this point in time, do we really think that blacks can't vote? I mean, surely, okay. Look,
I mean, the left pretty much does.
They act like, yeah, that's exactly right. I was listening to Hakeem Jeffries. Oh my God, the whiplash he must have after.
I started calling him Haktua Jeffries just because I hate saying that name. So
yeah. I mean, but the whiplash that little ass clown must have after celebrating Virginia and then turning around and snapping his head the other way for this. You can't have it both ways. You absolutely cannot. So if Virginia can do that, then Louisiana can do this, and Florida is getting ready to just, you talk about shelling some peas down in Florida. Possibly we may not have to listen to or look at, thank God, Debbie Wasserman Schultz any longer. That lady, I swear to God, she looks like she smells like a wet beagle wrapped in spoiled olive loaf. There's a picture for get that one out of your head. But anyway, so the ruling falls in line with a conservative push to curtail the Section 2, allegedly curtail, which ensures equal access to the political process based on race. So does what happened keep any Black American from voting? No. So how does it weaken Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act? I mean, really, how does it weaken it? And get ready, because the state of Alabama, who recently created a congressional district very similar to that one in Louisiana that was just struck down, is looking to head to appeals court to have that district re-swiped and turned back to the way it was.
Based on the ruling from Louisiana, though, I don't even know if they would need to go to appeals court.
I don't know either. I think because it is a district, as a congressman in that district, I think you probably have to. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's something the state Supreme Court could do. I don't know.
I mean, I could be wrong, but after coming through a little bit of that 96, 97, 98 page, consent or whatever the hell they call it when they agree. I can't think of it right now. It seems to me that they're basically saying that this is flatly unconstitutional because things don't need to be drawn based on race anymore. So I don't even know. I don't even know if any of the other southern states that have been hamstringed by this same crap would have to take them back to court at this point.
I mean, I hope not. It would make things a lot easier. We know Dollar Store Obama's going to be pitching his little temper tantrum and jumping up and down, trying to get his head above the back of the chair so he can be seen. He is a little pissant. But anyway, what basically happened today is they said that every voter is entitled to a vote, and that's it. Race isn't a factor, as it should be. Nobody forces white, black, brown, red, yellow, pink, blue, purple, plaid Americans to all live in one same centralized area that causes this.
One of the weirdest things for me, because I actually played a snippet of an ACLU attorney that was arguing the other side of this thing, and I couldn't believe it when a female attorney of color was basically saying that we need these districts because white Democrats don't vote for black Democrats.
Wow.
Basically what she said.
That's that's telling. It's telling. It just when you get down to it, what they want is on-demand segregation, still put on equal platform. And that's what that's saying. You could run a black candidate. Hey, guess what? The district that they drew here, the extra district, it was won by a black candidate. It was a previously non-existent district. And if you look at the congressional map of South Alabama, you will see that there are two districts that begin down at the Gulf, and both of them go north about 50 miles, and then both take a hard turn to the east and run all the way over to the Alabama-Georgia line. Now, I have no problem with the people that live over in that part of the state, some 200 miles later. But what does say, let's just randomly say a peanut farmer, because that corner of Alabama and over the state line into Georgia, there's like an 80-mile circle where 70% of all of the United States peanuts are grown. So what would a peanut farmer in the Wiregrass area of eastern Alabama have in common with a former beach bum, now tech exec on the Gulf Coast? And with 200 miles plus separating us, why would you think that us having the same representative would be common sense or make sense or anything close to that? Mind. It was clearly done for it was all race based. That's all it was. They even said it when they were doing it. It's to create a second majority black district, which is the same thing that Louisiana had drawn. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to the day of getting back to District 1. If Mobile and Baldwin counties, the two counties that share the Alabama Gulf Coast, can't be in the same district, what is that telling you? I mean, literally, we're the only two counties in this state that touch the Gulf. And we're not in the same congressional district.
Do 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 do.
Oh, did I really go out yet?
Yeah, you're back now though.
At what point did I drop?
I don't know. I was typing on something else, so I wasn't really paying that much attention. It's been about probably 15 seconds ago.
God damn it. Well, you want to run the ads? We're at the bottom of the hour.
Yeah, hang on.
All right, we're going to do the ad thing. Refill your drink, stretch your legs, and we'll see you in a few.
Will it be a few, though? Will it really? I guess we'll find out together.
Enjoy my bumper music. It's the best in the business.
Says he, but I write my own now. So.
1, 2, what you doing? I've been jumping through some hoops. Wanna get my body loose. Wanna tell you what to do. I've been running out of bounds like an animal struggling, looking for a diamond. I'm trying.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
Celebrity designer Jeff Lewis is back with Hollywood House Lift.
I'm excited to be working with new clients.
I'm not getting rid of that.
I hope I never see you both again.
Yeah. An all-new season.
Those have to go. That has to go.
From oh, wow,
It's been an actual nightmare.
to oh, wow.
This is such an upgrade.
With celebrities like Josh Duhamel, Christina Ricci, and Gina Rodriguez. Dazzle me, Jeff.
It looks like Chuck E. Cheese.
Stream an all-new season of Hollywood House Lift with Jeff Lewis, now streaming on Freevee.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
We are back. All right. Come back. Me or not? That's not a good sign.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay.
Maybe.
There. Make me panic for a minute, huh? Okay. I got it. Asshole.
I almost hit this button, but it wasn't loaded. Not that one. This one. But yeah, it wasn't loaded, so I couldn't do that yet. Anyways.
Hey, so before we get rolling, what's coming up tonight?
Behind Enemy Lines Radio is on after you, and then we'll go into Rick and Orty with myself and the Amish one, and then there is no Edge of Liberty tonight. Sean isn't feeling well, so Rick and Orty will be the closing act, so it's kind of like the old days.
Man, look at you, in bed early tonight.
And I think I'm going to write some instead, because, reasons.
Yeah, call a paycheck.
Pretty much.
I get it. It's okay. Hey, no hate, no shade, no nothing. I don't judge. Not my job. I might make fun of you, but I ain't judging you. But anyway, with everything going on, you got the crazy ass would-be assassin at the correspondence dinner the other night. Is it really a surprise? Is anybody surprised that this piece of shit, American-hating communist Hassan Piker, is being flocked to by Democrats? They love him. He's a terrorist sympathizer. He loves the flag burners. He's a crass blowhard with an affinity for America's darkest adversaries. And really, I mean,
Do 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 do. Do 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 do. There's a reason we have a weather map over G's face tonight, just so everybody knows why he keeps dropping. I think he might be back now, though.
Oh man,
you're back.
Am I back?
You're back.
Yeah, you gotta let me know when I'm back because I don't see it.
I did. I said I think he's back now, and then you got quiet.
Okay. So let's see. I probably got cut off well into my raising hell about Hassan Piker.
Yeah, that's the last thing I really remember hearing was his name. So I would just
So I mean, this is a guy that he's he's a toxic demagogue. He is. He is further alienating their voter base and driving people away from supporting Democrats by his extremism. What does it mean to moderate, independent, Jewish, and female voters that their side is branding itself with a figure known for comments hostile to people they know and supposedly love? I mean, this is a guy who said that the fall of the Soviet Union was one of the greatest disasters of the 20th century. He is He loves flag burners. I don't know if that was heard before or not. You know, he's a piece of shit. He called for blood in the streets just weeks before the assassination attempt at the correspondence dinner. Women are sure to be uncomfortable with a man who joked and mused about men date raping women on college campuses. Jews are unlikely to be pleased with his calling their ethnic group inbred. And others will be alarmed by his embrace of racial slurs or the viral clips that yell during this. You still have people like California Congressman Ro Khanna, New York City Mayor Zoran Mamdani, and congressional Democrat candidate Saikat Chakrabarty appearing on this asshole's show for interviews. Why? What is it that they find about this guy that's right with their party? And the fact of the matter is that this is the left. And some of them are just now starting to get brave enough to let you know that this is them. And they're hoping that you'll just come along. But I got news for you. It's a rough road out there if you're planning to go the route of Hassan Piker. Because quite frankly, if he wants some blood in the street, then come to my house. I'll put some of his in the street and let's see how he likes that. I don't care. I'm middle-aged and I'm on the higher end of middle age, but you know what? I'll go. I will go. He's a piece of shit. He's the personification of a political STD, resistant to medications. And quite frankly, he needs to go. Maybe somebody ought to put a bullet in his ass. Fuck him. I don't care. Anyway, let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, yeah, this is pretty good. Hey, this is a good pickup, Seymour. Look at you. You actually found a real news story that's not like a
There he is. He's back now. So Seymour found a news story and it was awesome, and then we lost you.
Seymour, yeah, he found a real news story that's not a major headline. The Supreme Court delivered a unanimous rebuke to New Jersey Democrat Attorney General Matthew Platkin for his demand that a pro-life pregnancy center hand over its donor information. Platkin had issued a subpoena to First Choice Women's Resource Centers seeking to prove that the pregnancy center was misleading donors. The Supreme Court cited NAACP v. Alabama from 1958, which secured the precedent that donors have a first right amendment to contribute to causes anonymously. Since the 1950s, this court has confronted one official demand after another, like the Attorney General's, said Justice Neil Gorsuch. And over again, we have held those demands burden the exercise of First Amendment rights. Disputing none of those precedents, but seeking ways around them, the Attorney General has offered a variety of arguments. Some are old, some are new, but none succeed. In response to the Supreme Court's overturning of the abortion precedent Roe v. Wade in 1973, in Dobbs v. Jackson, Women's Health Org 2022, Platkin established a reproductive rights strike force. Okay. That strike force issued a consumer alert accusing pro-life pregnancy centers of seeking to prevent people from accessing quote unquote comprehensive reproductive health care. Mr. Attorney General Platkin, there is nothing reproductive about killing a baby in the womb other than it is the reproductive. Sick. So, pro-life pregnancy centers like First Choice offer various services to women facing crisis pregnancies, such as counseling, food, shelter, clothing, baby items, in an attempt to convince them not to undergo abortions and to prepare them to take care of their babies. These centers compete with abortion centers, they say, and Democrats have suggested that they engage in misleading advertising to do so. You mean like Planned Parenthood does, saying that they're a complete healthcare clinic system when they're not? Talk about, selective enforcement of the law. That's a violation of his oath of office. Platkin's office had not received any complaints from the public about First Choice, but staff served a subpoena on the pregnancy center. The subpoena mentioned the state's Consumer Fraud Act and commanded First Choice to produce documents within 30 days, demanding the names, phone numbers, addresses, places of employment, and of all individuals who had contributed to their pregnancy center by specific means. The Attorney General later claimed his office intended to contact donors to determine if they had been misled by First Choice. Gorsuch noted that Platkin's apparent theory involved the idea that First Choice had misled donors into thinking that it provides abortions. First Choice sued, seeking an injunction to block the subpoena, but the district court and panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Third Circuit dismissed their claim. As Gorsuch explained, the case centers on whether the threat of Platkin taking further action against them qualified as an injury in fact, giving consent to sue enforcement of the subpoenas as it faces a credible threat from enforcement. Gorsuch agreed with First Choice's claim that the Attorney General's subpoena itself, and specifically its demand for donor information, has caused it to suffer an actual and ongoing injury to its First Amendment rights by deterring donors from associating with it. This case follows a recent trend of Democrat attorneys general seeking donor information in a way that contradicts the Supreme Court's ruling in going back to 1958 with that NAACP v. Alabama case. And in 2021, the Supreme Court upheld in a new tab the rights of Americans for Prosperity against California Democratic Attorney General Rob Bonta. So it's the same thing. They're just trying different roads to get there. It's an intimidating crisis. And if I'm telling you, if I had the money, I would just throw some money at them just for the hell of it, like difference making money. Oh, sorry, my throat is so dry. Nice cold drink helps. Anyway, well, damn it, Rick. We got there a little fast. All I got left is the happy.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I know, but she's a bitch.
Oh,
Hey, speaking of, hey, Rick, you know how
yeah.
long it takes the average woman to have an orgasm?
7 years ago.
No, who cares? As long as I get mine. Anyway,
Oh.
no, I don't care. What you gonna do? Fire me?
So yeah, I was,
Ricky,
back
are
to
you,
your Alabama maybe about to take their map back to court. I was reading a post from someone who claims to be a constitutional attorney on X, and they said that they now have the legal right to redraw those maps because of the ruling from Louisiana. So who knows?
well, there you go. I mean, and that makes sense. I would like to see that done. I don't know if that happens before midterms or not, though.
I mean, in between Florida and this and what we did in Texas, we're already like +8, I think. So,
and
'cause
we'll have to wait and see.
Florida's
I
maps
think,
got passed through the Senate today, so they're just waiting on the governor's signature. So,
yeah, I think Virginia's going to end up at the Supreme Court.
yeah, but thanks to the Virginia's Supreme Court, it looks like they probably are going to have to sit on it until they figure out what the final decision is. So there's that. So
I mean, after today, they should.
And we lost him again. But wait, maybe.
Creating a new district. Am I right?
All I heard was district race-based, and because
Oh,
you
I
were
said
gone for
that
like
what Virginia's doing is even worse than creating a new district that's just based on race.
yeah, I mean, seriously.
I mean, really,
Oh my God. I don't even know how this just wound up on my feed, but now I have to share.
Please share.
Hang on. I'm going to put it in here. I don't know if you'll be able to open it because your internet. But I guess I can put it on the screen too. Hang on, because yeah, so this is the rules of X, folks. If I see it and it makes me go, oh my God, that means you pretty much have to
see the weather map.
Sorry if it hurts your feelings. I'm working on it right now.
So I don't know what we're looking at here. This is all new to me. We'll get it. I can hear the pitter patter of rain on my roof.
You little bitch! Ouch! Ouch! Just relax, you little bitch!
Oh my.
So yeah. Hey, I didn't know I could do that. I actually put the weather map in the corner of the other image. That's a new thing. I didn't know I could do that.
That makes De Niro look a lot taller than he is.
I'm just loving the fact that somebody's finally admitting that, that was an actual bulge in Mikey's dress. Not.
Oh well,
They've changed something again. I need to look at the notes because that's the first time I've ever been able to put two different shared screens on the same screen at the same time. I can up until today I could do it in other tabs, but I was wondering why. I was like, I don't know.
Well, look, see now, if I had been retired, you'd have never thought about trying that.
Oh yeah, I would. I mean, that's not true either. But yeah.
Well, just got to throw the bullshit back at you,
I'm used to it by now.
I know.
Anyway, when you come back from your weather-related silence in the next 10 seconds or so, I think we burned up enough time for you to get to your happy ending now.
Oh man, really? Again?
You're back now.
Okay. So happy ending time. So a wild Sumatran orangutan has been seen crossing a road through the jungle with the help of a canopy rope bridge for the first time in over 2 years. Yeah, this is a landmark moment. Now you have to understand the backstory here. This moment was caught on a camera that's posted at the tops of the rope bridge in the Pakpak Barat district of northern Sumatra. It is a world first for the species. Not that they've never used a rope bridge, but but because of the incredible social skills and intelligence, it's predicted to become more normal behavior in the future. Now, while other primates for critically endangered Sumatran orangutans can and will use canopy bridges to overcome forest fragmentation. So what happened is a couple years back, they built this road through the forest. Progress, right? Whatever. But it split, the road split the, we'll just, for lack of a better term, we'll say herd of orangutans in half. And they weren't crossing the road to get back and forth to one another. So they built this rope bridge. Now, first of all, why the hell they built it so high, I don't know. It's like 120 something meters up in the air. Ridiculous. Does
Excuse
not
me,
have
sir.
to be that high.
We use freedom fractions around here. What's this meter shit?
Well, I mean, they're in Sumatra, so they don't do free.
So you, as an American, can convert
150 feet up.
Yeah, about that. So anyway,
that somewhere in that ballpark. Yeah, we're talking ballparks now. That's right, man. Yeah.
See, America.
Anyway, so they've been waiting to see an orangutan cross this bridge for over 2 years, and one finally did it.
You know why? Why'd the orangutan cross the road finally?
To get to the other side?
Because there was a Circle K with moms in the back of it on the other side.
Boom, boom, boom. Oh, are we calling somebody an orangutan?
Nope, I didn't say a Amish orangutan.
Oh, okay.
I'm just
That'd
saying.
be pretty sharp to look at, though. I'd like to see an Amish orangutan. Anyway, so yeah, over 2 years in the making. They're finally going to overly concentrated genetics and breed. Kind of like. Well, never mind. I'm not going to go there. It's been a good night. I'm going to keep it that way. But yeah, and the road bisects West Toba and would isolate two halves of the population, leading to even more of this problem. So this is a very, very good sign for the Sumatran orangutans, and let's hope that this happens more often and we can get the species back on its feet where it needs to be, and maybe even make some more of these rope bridges as time demands and all that good stuff. So yeah, that's it. That's the show. If you like it, tell your friends. If your friends like it, you need new ones. But they and you are welcome here with me on Wednesday nights on KLRN Radio, America's podcast network, and the only home of the conservative curmudgeon radio show. I'm your humble host, The Grouch. Peace.
What you doing? I've been jumping through some hoops. Wanna get my body loose.
I hate this place. Nothing works here. The medications don't work. I've been here for 7 years.
Here's to you. Feel the grass. 'Cause the last few nights have kicked my ass. And thank you for your help. Themselves. Here's to us. 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 Here's to love. Here's to us. Everybody will.
And Hangout 4 Behind Enemy Lines coming up next. Just waiting for them to go live. They're not quite there yet, apparently. Yay, fun times. Maybe we'll run an ad while we're waiting. I don't know. Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNRadio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNRadio. Okay, so we did just get notice that they're going to be starting a little bit late, so now I have to go find them again because I parked them somewhere. All right, there we go. I'm just going to put this on the feed and then park it because I'll be joining them when they start anyway, so hang on.
And even some stuff going on in Congress that I thought was hilarious that we're going to be reacting to. So hang out with us tonight and enjoy. Gene Berardelli and Ross Galloway here with you. Actually, it's not just Gene Berardelli and Ross Galloway here with you because I'm late, because I was late starting. He ended up getting here early, so let's bring him in now.
So I want to thank you all for being here. And now, who am I introducing next? Who's next?
Rick Robinson. I think I got to unmute. You know, you're already unmuted, pal. Thanks for tuning in. Oh, the hatless Rick Robinson tonight. That's awesome. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I decided to go without a hat. I figured if you can do it with your hairline, so can I.
Hell yeah. Galloway, what's going on? When you gonna show us that chrome dome?
The light in my place is look at how bright that goes.
Holy crap. I feel like Gizmo and Gremlins. Bright light, bright light.
My God. Got a lot of shine coming off that dome of yours. Jeez Louise.
Listen, mine was a little bright, Gene, but you look like we're doing Gene After Dark in your little box over there.
You know what it is? You know what I found? Apparently, the light mutes on me when I wear light-colored shirts. So,
yeah, it's because the light color is absorbing more of the light, so that's why.
Yes, I am a black hole sucking everything in right now. That's what I am.
I mean, I'm glad you finally figured that out, but it took you long enough.
Hell yeah. Anyway, I don't care. I've had a good day. Listen, I've been up since like 5 a.m. I had to travel to the Boogie Down for a court appearance. I'm just done.
You still have your wallet?
Yeah, thankfully, I kept it in my bag. So, speaking of court, let's get right down to it. Ladies and gentlemen, everybody else in between, it's a brand new freaking ball game when it comes to the battle for the midterm elections, because in a major decision in the case of Louisiana versus Calais, the majority of the Supreme Court, the supermajority of the Supreme Court, in a 6-3 decision, gutted Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act in striking down Louisiana's redistricting map that was challenged as racially discriminatory. So earlier today, as we're recording this on Wednesday, the Supreme Court held in Louisiana versus Calais that a Louisiana congressional map that a group of voters described as non-African American had challenged. The court ruled that it was the product of an unconstitutional racial gerrymandering. Now, I read SCOTUS blog for fun. I don't expect you guys to read SCOTUS blog for fun. Let's get to John Solomon's account and summary, which I find is a pretty good one, about what happened at SCOTUS.
The United States Supreme Court that will have a major impact on the upcoming midterms to the benefit, most likely, of conservatives and Republicans. Earlier today, the court released an opinion striking down a set of Louisiana congressional district maps that added a second majority black district. The court ruled very clearly race cannot be a primary consideration when you're doing redistricting. Now, politics can, but not race. Now, why is that important? Well, first, those two Louisiana districts are going to be declared illegal. They're Democrat-leaning. They're likely to be redrawn Republican. Meanwhile, other states are doing exactly the same thing. Florida today passed a brand new map in compliance with this ruling that adds 4 Republican seats to the state of Texas. Just got the okay from the Supreme Court to do 5 more seats that are going to lean more Republican. The argument at hand is whether or not race can play a role. As we know, the court has ruled in the past, you can't use race for college entry, and now you can't use race predominantly as a reason for making congressional districts. Justice Samuel Alito wrote the majority decision. He wrote, because the Voting Rights Act did not require Louisiana to create an additional majority-minority district, no compelling interest justified the state's use of race in creating that district, and that map is an unconstitutional racial gerrymander. Now, the 6-3 decision is going to trigger, as I said, a series of redraws, predominantly across the South, predominantly with Republicans picking up districts. The question now is how many of those can be done before the 2026 election, and how many will wait to 2028. Florida got it done today. Texas is already done. Louisiana will be in the process. Mississippi just called a special session to be concurrent with this release of the ruling, meaning that Republicans are going to speed to it. Meanwhile,
the floodgates, gentlemen, have been opened. By my count, we could be looking at 30 different seats across the country in red states being redrawn in favor of Republicans. Galloway, your initial thoughts?
I mean, he said it best. The clock is ticking, right? You got primary season already in full swing in most states. The Republicans should have done this a long time ago. And we're going to actually see who the next crop of legitimate Republican leaders are by what they do with this decision, right? Florida already jumped on board. Texas, has some real Republicans out there, but I didn't hear South Carolina mentioned, and a few other southern states that clearly can redraw their lines, especially in light of this ruling, but they don't seem to be making any moves.
Yeah, Rick, what are your initial thoughts before we start getting into a little bit of the legal minutia, which I love?
Well, I mean, before you put Ross and I to sleep, I just want to point out what a difference a week makes.
First of all, that. But so what a difference a week makes in what respect?
I mean, look at where we were last week. Last week was when everybody thought it was the end of the world because Virginia just got to redraw their maps. In the space of about a week, their Supreme Court says, not so much. After a lower court already said, hey, this is pretty much unconstitutional, their state Supreme Court said, yeah, no, y'all can't do any of that until we figure out what's happening here. So that's now on hold. Then you've got today, Florida successfully passing their maps. This actually opens up the ability for most southern states that have been stuck in this race bait gerrymandering crap now for nigh on 60 years, if they want to go on and start redrawing their maps back to pretty much what they were before all the, if you don't do it this way, you're a racist, people got a hold of their maps. So, I mean, like you said, this could be, if we play the cards right, especially if you take into account the other things that will likely start happening in by the time the new census hits in 2030, we're looking at anywhere between 30 to 40 seats in the next 4 years.
Absolutely. By the way, guys, as you are coming in, I'm glad you're here with us. Be sure to smash that thumbs up button. Like, comment. We love all the comments here coming from the chat. We invite you to join the chat with us. And if you like what you're seeing here, subscribe to the channel wherever you may be watching. The reactions came in, as you would guess, throughout the day from different people. And let's just say that some of them were definitely better than others. I want to go to President Trump first because I thought his reaction was just it encapsulated what I felt when I heard the news. I had actually come back from a court appearance in the Bronx and saw the news of it all, and then later on this press conference with President Trump said this.
Supreme Court ruling on the Voting Rights Act. I know you said you haven't seen it.
When did it come out? Just now?
No, it came out this morning, but basically very much narrows the Voting Rights Act.
Was it considered a win for who?
A win for Republicans.
I love it.
But my question...
This is a very good... We can end this news conference right now.
I just got to play it again because it was just so freaking good.
A win for who?
A win for Republicans.
I love it.
And that's the genuineness of President Trump, Ross. I mean, we complain about him all the time about policies and, you know, sometimes his manner and all that. But his heart is in this, man.
I mean, he remembers his first term, and he already knows what happens if Democrats win the midterms. This is long overdue, honestly. Let me just say one thing though, because I want to make sure I stay intellectually honest. The Constitution leaves it up to the state legislatures on how to, apportion their districts. So I do believe, although I don't believe race should be a factor, I'm always hesitant to jump on board when a court intercedes in the legislature's prerogative. But without the Supreme Court's ruling, Republican red states are giving seats to Democrats. When if you look east, the New England states where it's not zero Republicans up there, but we pretty much have 0 seats, payback's a motherfucker. So I'm all with it for this case, I guess.
Well, so absolutely. Ross, you did bring up an interesting point. I want to touch on this real quick if I can. So we've been kind of panicking about the midterms even before today, but here's something that I don't think anybody's really talked about. By this time in 2017, the Democrats had a +8. At this point in time, they're +3, which still puts them within the margin of error. So I don't know if it was going to happen the way they wanted to anyway. This almost, if Republicans fight hard enough, this almost guarantees that it won't happen. But we're really good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. So that's probably about the positive thing I'm going to say today about that.
No, I certainly agree with that. We are notoriously good at snatching defeat from the jaws of victory. Indiana, perfect example of that. Yes. They were too chicken shit, forgive the language, to go through with their own redistricting when they could, and now we're at a point where they can't do it till the next cycle in 2028. Ross, I do want to bring up something here that maybe the wonk in me comes up with. President Trump should be taking a victory lap here because probably the most pivotal voice in the oral arguments for this matter, and indeed for issues with the Voting Rights Act. And to your point, it is the prerogative of the states to redistrict, but the Voting Rights Act was federal legislation that the federal government passed concerning how states go about things like redistricting. And there was a case that came up before this one that was decided today as we're recording, called Allen v. Milligan, concerning an issue about Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act that was sort of the precursor for this. And the reason why I say Donald Trump deserves a victory lap is because he appointed justices that got this over the line, like Justice Kavanaugh, who noted in that previous decision, Allen versus Milligan, that although that case didn't deal with Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, that he was signaling that he would be against, he would be for, I should say, gutting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, which Democrats are saying happened today, because he said in that previous decision, and I'm quoting here, Justice Thomas notes that even if Congress in 1982 could constitutionally authorize race-based redistricting of the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act for some period of time, the authority to conduct race-based redistricting cannot extend indefinitely into the future. Now, because that Alabama case didn't deal with that argument, he didn't consider it for that case, but because this Louisiana case dealt with that argument, he was able to take that signal from the Alabama case and make the decision that the court made in this case.
Yeah, but my question, Gene, and look, I love most of the conservative Supreme Court justices, but where in the Constitution does it say that you can basically ignore the Constitution as long as it's for a limited time that the Supreme Court makes up, right? Like if it's either we can't draw districts with race being the primary motivating factor, right? It's not like, well, we can, like, can we ban free speech for 5 years because somebody said something crazy? Like, I don't get that part of the Supreme Court. This is why I hate lawyers and I hate the judicial branch. But Article 3, for a reason, it's like the last one they thought of, and it's a necessary evil, and they grab more power than they should have. But yeah, I don't see how you can have the 14th Amendment and equal protection under the law and ever allow things to be based solely on race. Like, that never made sense, even for a limited amount of time, right? And to tell you the truth, let me just say this real quick. I've joked around about this in the past. This is really black people's fault, right? Because they overwhelmingly, and by overwhelmingly, I mean like black women vote Democrat 95%. I think black men are like 84% now, right? They put themselves in this box where the Democrats take them for granted, and they gerrymander districts, so they get a token black guy in Congress in each state, so they have a few sprinkled in there. But when it's a majority white Democrat district, not that many black people get elected, right? So the party of like equal rights and equal outcomes and DEI, they can't elect black members to Congress unless they make black districts, right? It's kind of sad.
Well, and in the case of Republicans, you up with some black Republicans represent majority white districts.
Yes.
There's one in Texas, there's one in Ohio, I believe, that I can just think of off the top of my head.
A senator in South Carolina, they're like, we're okay with that.
Yeah.
We're not looking at people's skin.
Yeah. So, and I see Matt Lofton in the chat. Hey, pal, how you doing? I see the comments about King Charles. I'm going to touch on that in my final hangout for that. Rick, one of the things that I've heard in discussing the culture wars in America is that there is sort of a war for the soul of America between a representative republic being fought for on the right and a multiracial democracy on the left. I'm going to play this clip from MS Now that is lamenting the blow that multiracial democracy people have decided to support and how this case has affected their efforts.
Today in Louisiana versus Calais completes the set because it effectively dismantles the last leg in the Voting Rights Act's protections, which was for redistricting. Whereas previously, the Voting Rights Act had said when a state draws districts in ways that have the effect of diluting the voting power of racial minorities, of effectively making it so racial minorities' votes count for less than white voters and that they can never elect the candidates of their choice. Now, the Supreme Court has said, go ahead, state legislatures, draw districts, even redraw districts that lock voters of color out of power. That is to undo the Voting Rights Act and what it did for this country, namely make it into a multiracial democracy.
What are your thoughts on what was said there, Rick?
Well, I mean, if you've got a moron to English translator, I would really like to hear that.
Okay.
But my whole thing with
let me be your
ahead.
moron to English translator, because I do speak fluent moron living in the People's Republic of New York. She basically was saying, well, okay, so second set of birds for you there. She was basically saying that SCOTUS has disenfranchised black people, and that is a betrayal of what a multiracial democracy should be, that every group should have their own representation and their say.
Okay, well, the problem that I have with that is we're not a democracy, for one. And the other thing is, this actually, what I said earlier today when I found out this was happening, and especially when I saw Timu Obama flipping the hell out over it, and everybody Schumer's old enough that he would remember when Jim Crow got signed, but this is not Jim Crow. No matter how much he tried to say that today. This is the Supreme Court trying to drag us back into the 21st century, because everybody remember that when Obama got elected, we were like, great, racism is finally dead in America. And then it got worse. This is them trying to drag us back into the 21st century. And I agree with the assessment that, race doesn't need to be a factor in anything. That's the whole reason we had the Civil Rights Act in the first place, was because race was being used as a negative. Now we've taken everything to the other extreme, where race is the only part of anything that matters, and that's causing everything to fall apart even worse. So now everybody's trying to drag us back to the center and be like, hey, it's great that you are proud of where you came from and proud of what color your skin is, but let's not make that the end all and be all of what it takes to be something in this country. One of the scariest things for me today about everything that I saw was an ACLU attorney who happens to be a female of color, saying that they need these districts because white Democrats don't vote for black Democrats. If that's not the Democratic Party itself telling you how racist they think they are, but they get mad at us when we say it. I'm just confused by all of that.
I got to find that clip for later for sure. Ross, you were chomping at the bit to respond to that clip.
No, I love it. That is perfect. I just want to build on what I was saying earlier. By condensing black voters into black districts, you will likely get a black congressman. Okay. 1 out of 435 members of the House of Representatives, right? They dilute themselves because that one person that looks like them has really no voice, right? They're in a party and whatever, where if you actually draw the districts, that makes sense, right? And you try not to gerrymander. You try to draw them in areas of your state that have stuff in common with each other, and those black voters got divided up into those districts based on where they actually live, amongst the people they actually live around, then their voice is actually stronger, right? Because a Republican in an area where he gets 90% of the vote does not give a damn what black people think, right? And the black guy running in the district with 90% black voters doesn't give a damn what Republicans think. But when you dilute those down a little bit to 60-40 districts, yeah, one party still has a nice edge. But you can't go too rogue, because if your own base doesn't come out, that 40% could overtake you, right? So by diluting that vote, you actually get more influence over the government, not less.
Speaking of dilution of the vote, let's talk about the Republican side for a second, because to draw these new districts that they may want to do, they're going to make certain other districts around them be closer than they would normally be.
Exactly.
Let's talk about that for a second. Is this something that can backfire on the GOP if they go all in with this redistricting across several different states?
Let me just jump on it and I'll throw it to Rick. Absolutely yes, because of what I just said. You can make a district 60-40 now, right? With Republicans in the lead, a healthy 20-point lead. But when you have rhinos running, guys like me don't vote for the Republican. I won't vote for the Democrat. I just won't show up. So now they would be more competitive districts, and Republicans actually have.
These Republicans take the opportunity to actually embrace being Republican.
Yeah, but there's the key. They have to embrace being Republican.
Right,
because that's the key. They have to embrace being Republican. because and here's the thing. This is the other thing. With the potential of all these maps being redrawn, I think this will start emboldening some Republicans to act like Republicans because they won't really feel like they need to go along and get along anymore because of all the intermingling that's happened in these weird districts. I mean, if you look at the Louisiana map before the SCOTUS spoke up, it was one of the weirdest set of drawn maps I've ever seen. It was like this weird river of blue down a red state. And it was like, and somebody pointed out that, you can't get mad at SCOTUS for basically carving up your plantation. Because that's exactly what it is.
I'm going to push back on one thing that you said, Rick, and that is you're not sure that Republicans would turn Republican to do their job here. The other side of that coin is if you make a safe R district less, that person wants to go back to Washington. They want to maintain their power and their influence. They may end up fighting for that district and having to be part of that fight. So it's a bit of a dangerous game they're playing, Galloway. But I put up the comment of Matt Lofton just a minute ago, so vote for then a Democrat anytime. And then you ended up responding, not if the Rhino is actually a Democrat. On that a little bit.
I'll start with the People's Republic of New York. There's a guy named Lawler. There's a woman named Malliotakis. They are straight up Democrats, okay? They might vote for the Republican who's running for Speaker of the House, but who cares, right? Because when you have a razor-thin majority and an important vote comes up, those two always seem to vote with Democrats on the real important issues. So at the end of the day, I'd rather be in the minority or have the minority of the House and Senate if we're not going to pass stuff, right? So I get the logic of rhinos, right? I will take a rhino over Ilhan Omar, okay? Like she's a mess, right? A rhino would be better than her. But over someone who is just a run-of-the-mill Democrat, even though they're all left-wing psychopaths, I'd rather have the Democrats be in control than claim we're in control and not be able to pass our agenda.
Gang, if you like what you're hearing right now, let us know by joining us in the chat. Hit that thumbs up button so you let us know whether you're agreeing, disagreeing, whatever you want to do. We're happy to listen to it. Rick brought up Hakeem Jeffries and his reaction to this decision in Louisiana versus Calais. Let's go to part of that right now.
By this illegitimate Supreme Court majority strikes a blow against the Voting Rights Act and is designed to undermine the ability of communities of color all across this country to elect their candidate of choice. But we're not here to step back, we're here to fight back. Yes. Now, when this decision came out earlier today, it's an unacceptable decision, but not an unexpected decision. Because this isn't even really the Roberts Court. It's the Trump Court.
Yes.
And what we would expect from the Trump Court is an effort to continue their scheme to suppress the vote and rig the midterm elections and beyond. Because these extremists have failed America in every possible way. They failed on the economy, they failed on health care, they're failing as it relates to this reckless and costly war of choice. The extremists have completely and totally failed America.
Blah, blah, blah. Everything I hate is illegitimate. Everything I love is completely legal. Rick, nothing new under the sun there, right?
Well, I have to say, I'm going to have to give you an honest take on something because I watched this today, so I was doing something else, but I was listening. And the funny thing is, since this is the first time that I actually just listened to it, I kept waiting for people to start yelling hallelujah and amen because it felt like we were in a black church. It didn't happen, but I kept waiting for it because you heard the folks behind them go, yeah, that's right. And you kept waiting for the amen and the hallelujah, and it never happened. But I mean, all of this is crazy to me. And the thing about it is, if you listen to him, he's still saying the same kind of crap that this assassin has been listening to for years. That the court is illegitimate, that this shouldn't have happened, that we're in, and the war's a terrible idea, that SCOTUS is terrible. All he's creating the next one, and he knows it, and he doesn't care.
Ross, take it from there.
Gene, I think Rick is going to agree with what I'm about to say, but I want your take on it. If you really listen to what he just said, he is speaking on behalf of the Democratic Party, right? He called it the Trump court and illegitimate. There is zero doubt in my mind that if they ever get power again, if they ever take the White House and the Senate, they will eliminate the filibuster and pack the court, among other crazy things that they want to do. Zero doubt that they're going to do that. And that's why I keep harping on it that we need to do it first.
Well, I mean, the court is, I don't know if you can pack the court. Filibuster, I think you won me over on. We can certainly continue talking about that for sure. But as far as I'm concerned, yeah, I think that triggers need to be pulled on the filibuster. I don't know going forward about packing the court. I would not do that at this point.
Well, time out. You don't think the Democrats would pack the court? All they need is a majority, a simple majority in each house if they got rid of the filibuster, and they can make it 10 justices or 15 justices or 20 justices, and then have their president appoint the remaining 10 and pass them, confirm them all in the Senate. They're going to do that. I'm not saying we should pack the court. I'm warning you that they are going to eliminate the filibuster. That's a guarantee. Please, someone clip this segment. They will eliminate the filibuster when they get power.
Well, when you're clipping that, clip this part too. I just want to point out that it's April 29th, 2026, and hell just froze over because Gene now agrees with me and Ross about the filibuster.
Woo!
I said you won me over. I mean, I have an open mind, unlike some people in this chat, but I can be won over. Final thoughts now on this whole SCOTUS decision and what it means. Is it a red wave incoming, or is this another red mirage? Rick, I'll start with you, and then Ross, you can take it from there.
I don't necessarily think it's going to be a red wave, but I'm not thinking blue wave as much as I was last week. I think, unfortunately, because it takes America forever to learn a lesson, now that the seats are starting to be rearranged, I have a feeling we're probably going to wind up with a house that kind of looks like the one that we have now, because for some reason America is most happy when our government is dysfunctional and barely able to do anything. The problem with that is it seems like the only time they ever really give anybody a chance to do anything is when they buy all the Democrats crap about, well, you tried the Republicans and they suck, let us do it. And then the next thing you know, everybody's complaining about $8 a gallon gas and a million other things, but who knows?
Kermit
so
voice
yeah,
is awesome.
yeah.
I love the Kermit voice.
Kermit the Frog here.
Kermit, if he was from the Deep South, I can't do the voice, but you can do it really well. Ross, final thoughts before we move on to another topic here.
Yeah, I don't see a red wave coming at all, and I hate the term even because we thought a few times this was going to happen, and we kind of look stupid. Until you pass the Save America Act and require voter ID and get illegal immigrants off the voter rolls, don't count on a red wave anytime soon.
All right, folks, let us know what you think in the chat. If you're watching on replay, let us know what you think in the comments. And if you like what you're seeing and hearing, hit the thumbs up. We got some other stuff to talk about here as my computer starts glitching out on me. Ross, you didn't get a chance. Assassination Part 3 happened. Rick and I ended up going live that evening, giving our initial thoughts and our initial hot takes on that. And I made sure I conveyed to the audience the message you gave to me in a text message, basically saying that you're ready for war. How are you feeling a couple of days removed now, almost a week removed?
It really is astonishing, Gene, that this president now has 3 legitimate attempts on his life, right? I know there's morons on the left saying it looks like it was staged. Like, that's just ridiculous. But how quickly we have moved on, right? It actually speaks to, like, for the most part, how Republicans conduct themselves in everyday life, but specifically Donald Trump, right? The guy was, like, willing to go back out that same night and finish the show. Balls of steel, the guy, right? He's teaching Republicans how to fight. But it really is astonishing. Like, if you think about, like, if Kamala even had a close call during her campaign, that's all that we'd be talking about. She put up holiday named after. Like, this guy had he literally took a bullet in the head, right? And the left, Jimmy Kimmel's making widow jokes about his wife.
Yeah, isn't it amazing how the tolerant and sensitive left had been reacting to this? But this leads us back to the same argument that we've been having, pal. And Rick, I'll get your take on this next. Political rhetoric, violent political rhetoric. When the day of what happened, you have the minority leader of Congress saying this. I want to know, how there isn't a correlation between what people are saying on the hateful left versus the actions coming from the hateful left.
An era of maximum warfare, everywhere, all the time.
Maximum warfare, Rick. What is a person who is already angry because of all the rage baiting from Democrats? When you hear maximum warfare, somebody is going to snap and are going to bring guns.
Well, that's the thing. We've seen this over and over and over again. They call people Nazis. They say that they're extremists. They say that, they've been running on him being literally Hitler for 10 years now. And then they act surprised when somebody picks up a gun and tries to do exactly what everybody says. If I had a time machine, this is what I would go do to Hitler. So the fact that they still, granted, he said this after, but he said some of the same inflammatory before, but he said some of the same inflammatory stuff today. They're still doing it, and they're not going to stop. And I honestly don't know how to make them at this point, because it's the only way they can get the few people that are still voting for them. Because one of the things that nobody's really talking about is all the people that are fleeing the Democratic Party in droves. So on top of these seats that are shifting, you've got people that are fleeing blue states. You've got people fleeing the party in droves. Now you've got the seat shifting, but it's because anybody with even an ounce of common sense is looking at the crazy stuff these people are saying that have become mainstream for the Democrats, and like, you people are insane. How many, just thinking all the way back to Fetterman in the beginning of his campaign, of the three of us sitting here, how many times did you think we would be holding him up as an example of a sane Democrat? And he did it again. He's the one that just said, hey, this is why we need the ballroom. Y'all need to quit your TDS. And I'm like, I was calling this guy Uncle Festerman for the 3 months that he was running in the primary. And now I'm quoting him all the time as a sane Democrat.
That was great.
Ain't it the truth, though? I did pick up on one thing that you said, Rick. I want to expound on it a little bit as well. There was one post on X that I saw that said that this alleged shooter, he's not just some nut job that's lurkers of the far left or whatever. He's not someone that was lost and forgotten by the system. This is a college-educated, credentialed, employed person, works in a school district, teacher of the month, according to all the reports that we see. And this isn't a bug of the system, Ross. It's a feature now.
Yeah. Well, first of all, G, you already know my stance on this, right? Like, I do believe down the rhetoric. I don't think language is violence, okay? I'm very consistent on this. Here's where I have the problem. The left are the ones that are always saying that this type of language causes violence, right? And now the right started saying it too. But the problem is, it's the left, when they speak like this, causes violence. And when the right speaks like this, it causes violence. But all the violence is directed towards Republicans, right? It can't be that both when the left says it and the right says it, only Republicans are attacked. It's not the language, guys. It's not the language. It's the people. The Democratic Party is filled with mentally insane people.
So that means that Ross Galloway now agrees with Nancy Pelosi.
People don't have any intention of saying something that's going to lead to something dangerous, but we cannot take responsibility for the minds that are out there and how they hear it.
Cannot take responsibility for the minds out there and how they hear things. So you agree with that?
Now, Gene, I would agree with that if that was always her position, but we know that wasn't. When her husband had that weird incident where some guy that was half naked was in his house and hit him in the head with a hammer, she did not say that. Okay, so that's not been my position has been consistent for as long as you've known me. I think we should turn up the rhetoric, not turn it down.
Rick, is the rhetoric contributing to the violence or not?
I mean, so here's the thing. Ross is not wrong on one point, because Trump uses a lot of rhetorical language. Some of the other Republican leadership has started to do the same thing. But you don't see Republicans and people that align themselves with the Republicans going out and taking the law into their own hands and picking up guns and starting to try to shoot at people. And the reason we know we don't see that is because there have been a couple of times when things have happened, like in the local legislatures. I think it was it Minneapolis or Minnesota? I think it was Minnesota or Wisconsin, where two local lawmakers were actually shot. The left tried to spin it like it was Republicans' fault, and then it turns out that it wasn't. So it's not. So the rhetoric. I mean, I agree with. I don't necessarily agree with Ross. I don't think the rhetoric, turning it up, I don't think that really helps anybody. But the idea that both sides need to tone it down because both sides are equally guilty of all the same. No. Our side doesn't go kill people just because we trash talk. As a matter of fact, our side probably trash talks more than the other one, because most of our side is Gen X and we grew up telling people your mama jokes and, all that stuff. So we just trash talk to trash talk. And we know that. But when the left trash talks, there is a group within the left sphere that take that as gospel and view themselves as the heroes that are going to change the world. The scariest thing about this guy from Saturday is he is a quintessential liberal. He is everything they say they want, and it took a couple of years to make him insane and have him go grab a gun and start trying to shoot people. Just saying.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. So now he's been formally charged with the attempted assassination of the president. I'm sure that there's going to be a trial and a spectacle around all of this, and the guy's going to go to jail for a long time. But can we talk a minute about the response to this and the Secret Service, in my opinion, dropping the ball again? First it was Butler, and now this. I am not a security expert, so in a lot of ways I have to defer to other people and their expertise. But it feels to me that if someone is speed running security checkpoints, that's not a good thing. Ross, can you help me out?
I mean, the video looks very scary, and that tactic, by the way, is very difficult to stop, right? If he had 3 or 4 buddies with him, who knows how far they would have gone. Now, the deceiving part of that video is it makes it look like that was the lobby and the ballroom was like 20 feet away. It was on a different level, and there were multiple layers of security between that, where that video was taken and where the president actually was. I'm not going to go as far as to say this was a lapse in security by the Secret Service. At the end of the day, no good guys got killed, and the suspect himself didn't get killed. They apprehended a heavily armed guy, a terrorist that was trying to kill the president or as many administration officials as he could. Could they have done better? Sure, they're going to do an after-action review and try to tighten things up. But like I think Rick mentioned earlier, that's why we need the big, beautiful ballroom, do things on the White House campus. But at the end of the day, not only did the Secret Service do a pretty bang-up job, they did a good job. It's crazy to me, just piggybacking off of what we said on the last piece here, that Republicans cannot feel free in this country, especially in blue cities like Washington, D.C. and other places, or college campuses, to gather, right? It's crazy that this is the country we live in, and we entertain when the left says that both sides need to turn down the rhetoric, right? Look at Turning Point USA, reporters getting attacked if they work for that organization, people on our side getting beat up in the streets, people wearing MAGA hats were getting beat up. Like it's totally a one-way street, man. And it's very frustrating. That's why I said I was ready for war, by the way. Like I'm still waiting for Donald Trump to come on TV, Give us the wink, and then we just go at it.
Well, so as Gene as Gene mentioned, we did this live, and I have to make a correction to something that I put out live, because the only video I had at the time was the really grainy one that POTUS put out. And then I did a show the following night on another network, and he found a clip that kind of made me tone down my smack a little bit with Secret Service, because I'm not gonna lie. In the grainy video, when old dude was running at the one guy and he jumped backwards, I was like, that should be the exact opposite of every bit of muscle memory training that dude has ever had. But in the clearer video, you can plainly see that even though dude was in a black suit and tie, he was wearing a ball cap. So I'm thinking he was probably hotel security, especially when you get.
Let me just say one thing and caution you on your backing off that point. I believe the clearer video is AI enhanced, and there may be images that were interpreted by the AI that may not have been actually there. So be careful with that, is all I'm going to say.
All I'm saying is it looks like the dude was wearing a ball cap, and if that's the case, he was likely security. Now, if AI saw a fuzzy thing in his head and rendered it as a ball cap, that would be a different thing.
Yeah.
But either way, another reason I'm not being as hard on them as I was initially that night is because the problem with that, a lot of the lapses and everything that everybody was talking about, like even heard some reporters going, all I had to do was show them the email on my phone and they waved me through. That wouldn't have mattered because dude was a guest, so he had a key. And if you listen to John Roberts, he was a guest. So he pulled into a parking garage, grabbed his luggage, grabbed a hotel, went straight up to his floor without even having to check with anybody because he had a virtual key on his phone. So dude, he was already within the first layer of security. The second layer of security did its job, even if the guy went backwards. And I'm still saying this, as somebody that used to train people in these kind of actions when we did executive protection and everything else, that guy would have been in my office getting his ass chewed the next day. Especially with that tape when I'm like, why did you jump backwards? You can plainly see that you were between him and there was a wall. All you had to do was throw your shoulder and he'd hit the wall. That's it.
Again, I can't speak to that aspect of it, and I am willing to defer to you on that. Obviously, as the story continues to develop, we'll be talking about this more and more as needed. So we're going to head into our final topic that I have anyway, and then I have a little bit of fun for final thoughts with Galloway. Did you guys happen to see, and this went sort of below the radar in the news cycle, they very funny exchange between EPA Administrator Lee Zeldin, who happens to be from the area I currently live in now. His family is actually a neighbor, and that kooky, crazy Democrat from Connecticut, Rose DeLauro, the one with the purple hair and whatever, looks like a witch come to life.
That's a man.
It's a man, baby. Over the EPA budget. This exchange, to me, is the perfect dichotomy between what a Republican believes and what a Democrat believes. And Rick, have you seen this?
I have seen bits and pieces of it, so yeah, I am familiar of what you're.
Ross, have you seen it?
I saw the whole thing and I loved every minute of it.
All right, so we're just gonna play a few minutes of it here, so we can get.
That could have been your governor, by the way. When you're watching this, if you're from New York, this could have been your governor.
It could have been my governor, and unfortunately, People's Republic of New York and whatnot.
The budget proposal reads like a climate change denier's manifesto. When climate change is flooding our streets, poisoning our air, driving up health care and disaster costs, how can the EPA justify abandoning that duty to protect Americans to appease polluters under the false flag of economic growth?
So she's asking about climate change protections from the EPA, which, by the way, for those of you who don't know, the EPA is charged with administering things like the Clean Air Act, Clean Water Act, and everything. And Supreme Court basically says you follow the letter of the statute. That's what Lee Zeldin is going to be talking about here. And by sticking to the letter of the law instead of feelings like Rose DeLauro is doing here, he completely destroys her to the point where she gets so exasperated it's beautiful.
The law, Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, where does it say
saying anything about fighting global climate change? Loper Bright, Supreme Court case. You familiar with it?
No, I maybe not, but let me ask.
But that's really important. As a member of Congress, Loper Bright says that we as an agency don't have the authority to get creative. If Section 202 of the Clean Air Act...
No, but you don't have, excuse me, you do not have the right to say climate change does not exist, that it's a hoax, and that's where this administration is coming from.
I understand you're upset that you don't know what Loper Bright is. Do you know what the major policies doctrine is?
I'm upset because...
You know what the major policies doctrine is?
No, let me just...
You're a member of Congress. You should know.
Well, you have moved from someone who defended the environment to all of a sudden...
I'm very defensive about not knowing the two biggest landmark Supreme Court cases of the last year with regards to your question.
You are very defensive about changing your policy and your positions with regard to the environment. Okay. Now, you just tell
Do you want me to tell you what
No,
Supreme Court cases are of the last few years?
This is what I want you
Michigan
to tell
versus
me.
EPA.
Whoa.
West Virginia versus EPA.
You know, you're here because you need money from us. So halt for the second.
And the reason why she doesn't know about Loper Bright and Wisconsin versus EPA, Michigan versus EPA, is because these are pretty heavy reads. I believe that Loper Bright is 112 pages. The other cases, Michigan versus EPA, I believe, is 89 pages. Same thing with Wisconsin versus EPA. It's close to 100 pages. Ain't nobody got time on that side of the aisle to actually read the law. They're only legislators, Galloway.
A couple of things real quick. First of all, climate change is a hoax. I wish he would have just said that. Trump is the only one that actually says things like that, and Republicans, by not absurd things, like climate change hasn't been an issue for the last few years. Why? Because it's a hoax, right? Everybody knows that. The second thing, there's that creature that was just speaking, that Congresswoman, the Honorable Dolores, does that creature look like an expert in science or the law? Right? Like, these people are clowns. They're fun clowns. She got a script. She read it. She knows nothing about how the climate works or how the environment works. No idea. Right? And she's lecturing a guy who's running an agency who actually does look at the law that Congress supposedly wrote and reads Supreme Court cases that gives interpretations of those laws, and she's baffled. Right? It's so frustrating, man. And yeah, he's coming there for money. He goes, I don't know if you have the rest of this clip. He goes on to call her out because he's like, well, what are you going to do? Defund the EPA? Like, that's their baby.
Oh, yeah, the threats come out with money and all that. Rick, I haven't read Loper Bright. I haven't read Michigan versus EPA, Wisconsin versus EPA. I haven't read the Clean Air Act. But then again, I'm not a member of Congress with oversight powers over the EPA. You would think that person would pick up a book or something.
Well, two points. First is, lady looks like a dude. Yes, I know that's not how the song goes, but still. Also, the other thing that I wanted to point out is you and I don't need to read those kind of things because all we have to do is look back at Al Gore, who told us that we would have no polar ice caps by 2015, and we still do. So, yes, climate change is a hoax. The reason they started using the name climate change was because every other thing they have ever called it has not come to pass. So by calling it climate change, it's colder this May 3rd than it was last May 3rd. That's obviously climate change. It's warmer this June 5th than it was last June 5th. That's obviously climate change. The thing about it is, what they use climate change for is a lie, but climate change is not a lie. The man-made climate change is a lie because the climate does in fact change. But now they just, anytime anything happens that they're like, they want to blame on, whatever, it's all about climate change. But the thing that the left has never understood about climate change, our atmosphere is a closed system. The NIMBY policies make us feel good, but India and China are still polluting the hell out of our atmosphere. And it's going to get here eventually. So it doesn't really do any good. It's stupid. But it's also a fundraising tool. So they use it for that.
Oh, it certainly has its purpose. I want to continue on with this video. In the meantime, I'm also looking for another video that actually Marcos helped me make involving Rose DeLauro. That is the cringiest thing you've ever seen. Let's get back to Lee Zeldin laying down the law, literally.
And wait for the questions and answer the questions.
Well, I answered your question,
No, you
and
didn't.
you didn't like my answer because you don't know what the major major policies doctrine is,
Chairman,
because you're asking me, you're asking about Section 202 of the Clean Air Act, and you don't read it. You don't know what it says.
Listen, and what you want to do is to deny. You want
No,
to.
I actually read the law. I do my homework.
Really?
You're just somebody who likes to have the microphone on. You know what I have to do? I read the law. I read the Supreme Court cases.
This, and I would say
No,
that
for your constituents is actually read statute.
budget is at real risk.
Read
Let
your
me tell
Supreme
you,
Court.
This is the Appropriations Committee.
Oh,
you come here.
You care about science? Now you're threatening to defund it?
Oh my God! No, you don't fund
Because
science.
you don't know what Loper Bright is. Because you don't know what the major policies doctrine is. Your message to our folks at the EPA is that you want to BS. You think I made up these cases?
Yeah, I think you have made up.
I made up Loper Bright. I made up West Virginia versus EPA. I made up Michigan versus EPA.
Woe is right. What are you doing? Why
Wait,
are you helping polluters?
We're not going to get any very far by talking on top of each other so that no one can hear.
Yeah, we're not going to get very far dealing with a Looney Tune, as Matt Lofton called her. Oh, man. This is how you deal with the loony left, but it's of what the is. They care about angles and advantage and ways to control, just like they were talking about with the shutdown in Galloway. They were talking about how this is our motion, things like that. This is Roro trying to exert her leverage over the EPA, do things that the legislature says that they shouldn't do, didn't mandate that they do it, yet she's still trying to do it because my feelings.
But these are the people that we need to uplift in the Democrat Party, right? Lee Zeldin is great, by the way. I'm so disappointed that New York didn't do the right thing. That guy definitely has a future. I'm so happy with how he's doing. But yeah, like Rose DeLaura, that's the, like, you want to clip that up and put that out there. You notice AOC fell off the map lately, right? Because she was their last real dummy. They try to keep their dummies under wraps. World War XI, this one talking about climate change with purple hair. More of this, please. More.
Yeah, well, you brought it up, so I'm going to bring up the clip talking about more loony lefties. Rick, you saw this goes back to what Ross Galloway was talking about last week about Ilhan Omar, right? He was talking about how she's captured and controlled. This is a beautiful side-by-side that I think shows just how stupid Ilhan Omar is. Let's pull this up right now.
People are just idiots. I'm at the point where it's become really hard to have an intellectual debate with any of these people. The dumbing of the United States has arrived, because how else do we get a Trump presidency again?
The last time the Alien Enemies Act was invoked, it was used to detain and deport German, Japanese, Italian immigrants during World War XI.
Yeah, Dwight Zombie loves the World War XI clip as well, pal. Take a victory lap, man. You called it. You said she's captured. She's reading off a script and doesn't know what the hell she's saying about one of the biggest conflicts in human history.
I mean, she literally came from some shithole country in Africa, right? She immigrated here, and I'll recap what I said last week. She supposedly decided to run for Congress, figured out how to run for Congress, created a campaign staff, raised money, and got to Congress. Who believes that? On race? And now she's just handed a script. She has no idea what she's saying. She did not fill out her financial report. She doesn't know what she's doing. You could say, like, the tongue, when people speak a lot, they make mistakes. There is no way possible to say World War XI, because it's not something that's in your head that you would have ever said before, right? So it doesn't make any sense unless you're just reading a script that someone else wrote for you and you don't even know the history of the country that you're supposedly making laws for in the Congress.
Roman numerals is hard, Rick.
Yeah, so as my parting shot on the way out, because I do have to jump in a minute, Dwight Zombie, her marrying her brother wasn't the scariest part, because things would have had to have happened for that marriage to be considered legal for immigration purposes.
Ew, don't, no.
Just pointing that out. But I do have to go, folks, because I got Rick and Orty coming up in like 30 seconds. So thanks for having me, guys. Enjoy your final thoughts. It's been a blast. And now that I've made Gene almost throw up, I feel like I've accomplished something.
Thanks, Rick.
Listen, all seriousness, thanks for getting a haircut for today. We really appreciate it. Have a great night with Orty. We'll talk to you later.
That's a great name for a show, by the way. Rick and Orty.
Yes. Listen, you want to change your name?
We should have came up with something clever like that. That was pretty good.
Can't do anything clever with Gene. So I know that,
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNRadio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNRadio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNRadio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRNRadio.
Hi, everyone. This is JJ, the co-founder of Good Pods. If you haven't heard of it yet, Good Pods is like Goodreads or Instagram, but for podcasts. It's new, it's social, it's different, and it's growing really fast. There are more than 2 million podcasts, and we know that it is impossible to figure out what to listen to. On Good Pods, you follow your friends and podcasters to see what they like. That is the #1 way to discover new shows and episodes. You can find Good Pods on the web or download the app. Happy listening.
KLN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
In uncertain times, we could use someone to lean on. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma will stand by you with plan options to fit your budget. If you've recently lost your job, had a baby, or moved, you can still get the healthcare coverage you and your family need. Financial help may be available for those who qualify. Call 855-452-BLUE or visit hereforyouok.com to see if you're eligible to enroll. Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Oklahoma, a division of Healthcare Service Corporation, a mutual legal reserve company.
The following program contains coarse language and adult themes. Listener discretion is advised.
The way I always do. How was I to know she was with the Russians too? I was gambling in Havana. I took a little risk. Send lawyers, guns, and money. Dad, get me out of this. Ha!
Uh-oh. Guess what day it is? Guess what day it is? Huh? Anybody?
It is Wednesday, my dudes.
Otherwise known as ChatLivesMatterNight, right here live on KLRNRadio.com. We are your de facto closing act for the evening because, unfortunately, Edge of Liberty will not be airing tonight. But I am one half of the crew, Mr. Rick Robinson. He is the other half, everybody's most favorite famous Amish attorney. His name is Ordnance J. Packard. Good evening, sir. How are you?
Hi, Guy.
How you doing? How's things?
I'm doing good. No, it's it was a beautiful day, and I'm tired, boss.
I'm doing good.
I'm doing good.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day, and there's been Democratic weeping and gnashing of teeth all day. So it's been a good day all the way around.
Yes. I've been listening to the lamentations of their women.
I want to hear the lamentations of your women. But yeah, dude, I've been saying this all day. What a difference a week makes.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, wow. I mean, even Sam commented on that too. Last week, she had to trundle through her mentions with everybody, about Virginia. And now, well, that's on hold indefinitely, and Florida and Louisiana. And yeah, it's, things are shaking up. I would love it even better if they said, oh, yeah, by the way, that California thing, that too is null and void. But,
Yeah, well, the interesting thing about this, because of the language that they used, Gene had brought up a pretty good point. I think one of the reasons that Elon Omar has, or I keep calling her Elon now, I don't know why Elon Omar has the district that she has, is I think there may have been some redistricting going on. And if they did that specifically to give, the Somalis a voting block, guess what? That's unconstitutional.
Yes, it is.
So, yeah. There could be a
Well,
lot of
going back
changes.
to something going back to something you guys were talking about in G's show about I said it in chat, but I got censored. I don't know any person who's seriously against the VRA. I mean, yeah, it's kind of like outdated, but it's like, okay, now if you want to talk about the 19th Amendment, there's some questions popping up about that lately in the last decade or two.
Well, yeah, I mean, hell, I know a lot of women that are like, we think the 19th Amendment was a terrible idea. So, I mean,
Yeah,
if they're saying it, maybe we should listen. But yeah, I mean, I don't know anybody who is actually against the Voting Rights Act. We're against what's been done with the Voting Rights Act because the Voting Rights Act once served a very valid purpose. We were going from treating people as if they were less than human to trying to give them a voice. But now on the left, because at one point you feel like they were treated as less than human and it's all our fault, they now deserve to be treated as more than human, and we get left behind. And that was one of the things that I've been pointing out all day too, for everybody who's screaming, Jim Crow. I mean, Schumer would know, he was there when it got signed, but that's beside the point.
Right. Yeah, pretty much.
The thing with all that is no, this is the Supreme Court trying to drag us back to the 21st century because, and I've been saying this all day too. Remember when Obama got elected in 2009 and we're like, okay, so we didn't win an election, but at least the racism shit has to die now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, nope.
Oh no, he dialed it up to 11.
Yeah,
and his husband keeps dialing it up further.
Speaking of, I wish I hadn't left that already because I found.
Yeah, I saw it earlier.
I put it on Gene's show or on G's show, and I thought he was going to die, but I can't. I don't have it now.
It's been pointed out to me that Candace Owens also has a bulge.
Yeah, probably related to. Michelle.
Oh, given her husband, that tracks too. So
that is true. But yeah, no, I mean, and the funny thing is listening to the difference with Timo Obama, because when the VA law got passed and we're like, holy crap, how did this happen? He's like, FAFO, bitches. And I was like, oh my God, racism is alive in America. Yeah.
Yeah, which is it?
Yeah, which one? Which one? Because
I mean, you guys can redistrict so, it looks like a fucking lobster. But, we roll some of that back, which, I mean, everybody says, well, Texas started it. Yeah, that was actually, if I recall, the Department of Justice saying, yeah, you need to fix that because you went too far the other way.
Yeah.
Because they did make race-based districts to comply with the VRA, and Biden's DOJ said, yeah, no. If I recall correctly.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. I think this was actually started under a different DOJ, so which is interesting. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that really had me scratching my head, and I don't know if you saw this during the oral arguments for this thing, there was an ACLU attorney that was actually arguing part of the case who happened to be a woman of color, and she was saying that these black districts were required because white Democrats don't vote for black people even if they're Democrats. So you're
That
basically
sounds like a Democrat's problem, not
admitting that your party's racist.
Yeah. I basically nailed it right on the head, and she may be right, but that's also not something you say in front of Alito.
Yeah, it didn't go well. I will be honest. I have only skimmed the majority opinion today because it's like 90-something pages. So yeah, it's a lot of pages.
Please tell me that that room temp IQ Justice had her own dissent, because that's just gonna I love her dissents.
I know they said there was a concurrent on the dissenting side, I think. So she may have had her own.
Because, I mean, if there was ever an argument against a diversity hire, it's her. Kamala is a close second, but holy shit. That. Did I lose you?
No, I'm sorry. For some reason, ever since I signed on with G, he was having some internet issues, and it's like my stuff started going nuts too. So there's been a couple of times I've tried to do things, and my system hasn't been responding. But no, I can hear everything you were saying.
Plaguing you. Okay. It's plaguing you too.
Apparently. But yeah, I mean, all of this.
One on this network with a stable connection, and I'm in the sticks. Anyway.
Well, I mean, the rest of your stability is in question, so of course your network's stable. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, right. I mean, grippy socks, grippy box. What more do you need to say?
So yeah, I can't find this either now, but I did find a group of women that I don't think you can fix, and I don't think you would want to. So apparently, and I think it's in Britain, but I could be wrong, people are now paying extra for the female wait staff to spit milk into their tea. Why?
No.
Just why?
Usually you got to pay extra for that kind of action, so that tracks. But that'd be like, the next step, I'm sorry, but the next step of that is just hiring lactating waitresses.
Right? I mean, if you're going to, at least, that might be.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I might see some titty.
Anyway.
Yeah. We don't need to go there. We already did, but we don't need to go further into that. And that's me saying that.
Yeah, we don't want to go too far down that particular path.
Yes.
We say, but yeah.
Because it's wild in my brain pan, and you don't want a full. Anyway.
Nobody wants to know what's actually in that brain of yours. Just say.
Right. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Hang on.
But the one thing that I thought was interesting is, considering we're just coming off of this fresh assassination attempt, is Timo Obama still using the same kind of language?
He's just him and Ro Kahana, or both of them fucking Star Wars names. I don't care. They're the worst fucking people. Not Taylor Lorenz. But at least I could fix Taylor Lorenz.
Okay, and one correction for air purposes. The concurrence was actually on the majority side. Concurrence was written by Thomas and was joined by Gorsuch, so that made the majority, which apparently was written by Alito, signed and joined by Roberts, Thomas, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Barrett. But that was with the concurrence of Thomas and Gorsuch. So the dissent was written by Justice Kagan and was joined by Sotomayor and Jackson. So even though they agreed with the dissenting, they didn't actually do any writing of their own. So I was trying to fact check that when my computer went nuts.
That's a shame.
But yeah, so although they did say they
can't be doing that, Jeff. He's 11.
Yeah, right. I said, yeah. Anyway, I still can't. He's like, he's 18. I'm like, nope, he's 11. He's 18. Nope, he's 11. But yeah, I did. The interesting thing about the dissent is you never really saw anything broader about the VRA in the concurring opinions, the actual, the majority. But in the dissent, Kagan specifically says that Article 2 of the VRA is pretty much dead now. Which, yeah,
well,
whatever.
I mean, you could argue the VRA is dead. It's kind of like, I mean, not because of this decision, but because it's just wholly unnecessary now. It's the same reason that unions are dead, because you have labor laws. You know.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. So there is that.
We've moved past. Yeah, we can reference it. And, hey, the VRA. Well, as a historical point, it's fantastic, but it's kind of a moot point unless you get some super marginalized group again, which I'm sorry, I don't see happening. America is truly the melting pot now. I mean,
it's what we've always tried to be, and
yeah,
that was kind of the importance of today. Is now we can kind of get back to that again. At least I hope so. But
all right.
I mean, and then of course you had the Florida legislature passing their districts. The Senate passed it today too, so now it's headed to the governor's desk for signature, which makes Florida bright red with 3 little blue dots. So
yeah, what is that? Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Jacksonville, I think.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, these were broad passages though too. So like the one from today was in the Florida House was 83 yeas to 28 nays. That's broad passage.
Yeah, that's yeah, but I think it was you brought it up in a tweet. When Republicans redistrict, it's boxes. When Democrats redistrict, it's a Rorschach test.
Oh, well, that's I never paid attention to the two the two districts of color that are by default blue districts in Louisiana, but it literally looks like a river surrounded by giant swaths of red. And somebody pointed out that they can't really understand why all the black people are upset that they chopped up their voting plantation. Right. I thought that was a pretty good way to describe it.
Well, and that's what it is. And you really want to watch somebody lose their mind, tell them tell them they're on the Dem plantation, especially if they're black, and they lose their absolute shit.
Yeah. Dude, I had somebody who, from all intents and purposes, at least from what showed on their bio when I read it, I thought was on our side, but then wanted to keep screaming at me because I was pointing out when somebody was upset about the ruling today when they said, this is the reason we should have just decimated the Confederates. I'm like, well, you seem to be confused as to which side's actually acting like the Confederates. But other than that, I kind of disagree. I kind of agree with you. And then some dude that was, had all the hallmarks of a conservative timeline was yelling and screaming at me. And I'm like, you either don't understand what just happened or you're stupid. And I'm done talking to you. I don't know which one it is.
Embrace the power of and.
But yeah, I mean, it's just, again, a lot of us, especially on this side, were feeling really defeated. Then I saw something else that it's like CNN is starting to embrace the cope a little bit, and they're starting to try to work through their grief early, because I saw a clip from them. I think it actually came out yesterday before this decision, but they were like, do you know in 2017 in generic ballots, Democrats were already up +8 to +3, and now in the same time in this cycle, everybody's at +3, which puts everybody within the margin of error. And you could almost hear just the deflation. And then this happened, and
it's a coin flip.
I mean, and that's just it. Even with these changes, it could still technically be a coin flip. Just because it's a red district doesn't mean a Republican is always going to win. CD5 in Oklahoma, for the first time in like 40, 50 years, back in 2016, sent a Democrat to Congress. It lasted 2 years before they woke up and said, oh, we fucked up. And then they fixed it.
We should have done that.
But yeah, they're like, oh, that was a terrible idea. But it was kind of like what happened with Spanberger. She ran as a moderate, and then she voted everything that the Democrats wanted. So yeah.
Well, and I talk about that all the time about, especially when I'm saying, oh, you and your red state education. Yeah, you're right. I did have a red state education. It was California. And that was the last time California was successful.
Well, the scary thing about all the stuff they say about red state educations? What if I told you that the reading and math numbers were higher in Alabama than they are in New York?
That doesn't surprise me one bit.
Because they are by a couple of points.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not anything to brag about, really, when you think about it. But it's still, for all the blue state. Oh my God, you went to school in redneck podunk town, and I'm like, yeah, and I can still read better than you. So what the fuck's your point?
Yeah. Yes, I guarantee you that my vocabulary is better than yours, and I actually know what all the words mean. So I don't have to reinvent the definition of a word in order to excuse me.
Well, that's the scary thing, because I mean, we've been doing this now for a while, so I'm sure you've noticed that I do have at least what I would consider an above average vocabulary. There are times when BZ is making me look words up. I almost never have to do that.
I joke about that with Brad all the time on Culture Shift. He's one of the few political writers out there. I actually have to go and look a word up from time to time. It's like, I've got a pretty fucking good vocabulary, and I have no idea. I understand the context you're using it in, but I don't believe I have ever seen that word.
Yeah, Sam yelled at me once in a Twitchy piece because I pointed out that we like to anthropomorphize a lot of inanimate objects, and she's like, I had to look that word up. Don't ever fucking make me do that again. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry.
Seriously?
She's like, yeah, don't do that.
Well, I mean, she didn't know that Temple of Doom was a prequel. Or
yeah. I'll be honest, I never really paid attention to it either. I found it out later, but at the time going to the movie theaters, I didn't notice. But I think it was because we went to that movie as one of my birthday presents, and I was hanging out with the chick that I had a crush on, so I was kind of
okay.
Like,
yeah.
I
can see the distraction.
But yeah, so I didn't figure that out until much later. But yeah, anyway. Oh my God, I just saw this from the Babylon Bee. It was 6 hours ago, so I don't know how I missed it. They put out an amazing piece today. Poll shows majority of Democrats believe Lincoln assassination was staged.
That's good.
Oh, that's when you know there's healing happening in America, when you can start making like seriously like Carlin level jokes all over the place again now, and people actually laugh.
Well, yeah, and the only people getting mad at it are the left. So that's just the thing, is they are these suckers of joy. They have, well, we have all the comedians. Yes, none of them are funny anymore. Well, we had Carlin. No, Carlin was a libertarian.
This is true. Yeah. But then again, libertarians are pretty much leftist with a little bit of extra squish anymore. I don't think they necessarily were when he was one, but
well, the thing is, okay, when he was a libertarian, the problem with libertarians, big L libertarian, is that they've always been a single issue party. They were against the Vietnam War. Okay, great. That was the Carlin brand. It's against the Vietnam War, personal freedom, blah, 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 blah. Then it became pot. And now that a lot of the states have at least legalized medical use, if not full use, they don't even know what they're fighting for. And right now they're split between the absolute most retarded right possible, which I'm old enough to remember during the 2016 election, they said they didn't want us, and the ANSOCs and the ANCOMs, which is anarcho-socialists and anarcho-communists. And so that's why when you look at the individual states, each libertarian party has its own brand of autism, and none of them are good. So, my autism is cheeky and fun.
Is it though? Is it really? No, I'm just kidding. Your brand of autism is actually pretty fun, especially when it's on Twitter.
Yeah. I've been missing so much on Twitter. I've been so busy lately. I just I'll go and fart something out a couple times, and but for those of you who haven't been keeping track, I finally got my work restriction lifted from the state, so I'm back to work. So yeah, working my ass off, and I'm tired, boss. Making up for lost time.
So
anyway,
there is something that Trump did, and I think it was last week that kind of flew under everybody's radar. It was either last week or the week before. But most cannabis is now considered a Schedule III narcotic, which is
Really?
good and bad, because guess what? You dispensaries, you can get bank accounts now, but guess what?
Yeah,
now
right.
now you're going to get tracked by the IRS more. So good luck with that.
Yeah. Right.
Because
it's did you want this? Was it? I mean, no, absolutely. Because that always seemed like the shadiest thing. Is like, okay, so we're going to tax the hell out of it, but you can't wash it through a bank because it's a Schedule I. Therefore, how do you know they're getting taxed properly? I mean, I'm sure everybody's crossing their I's and dotting the T's because nobody wants to lose their dispensary license. But even that's got something that's gone too far. I mean, I'm in a small town and I've got 8 dispensaries within 45 miles. Is that necessary?
I mean, I live in a town. Well, the town north of me has like 500 people, but the town to the east of me has actually got enough population now where it qualifies as a city, but there's one on every corner. So yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that may have gone a little too far, to the point where our governor is now trying to undo the will of the people, which I don't necessarily agree with.
Right.
I think they need to cap maybe the number of active licensings that are available for dispensaries, because I mean, especially if you're driving to Oklahoma City, dude, I remember everybody used to joke about how in Oklahoma